Hello everybody and welcome back. Apologies for the technical difficulties at the end of the prior set. We are going to move in now to our pregame segment for our second set of the day as we jump for the Camelot Kings and the Eldritch Hounds. I'm Jim, as you can see over there. Inbound joins me on the desk, despite what the nameplate says there. I'm not Gore. Gore's way cooler than me, so I'm just going to take over his seat and hope that I can live up to that same expectation. But inbound, we got a good set on our hands up ahead of us here. Camelot Kings, Eldritch Hounds, roster change now for the Eldritch Hounds. Vaporsh Coast jumps away from this team, goes over to the Jade Dragons, and now instead it's Stuart jumping over to the Eldritch Hounds team, which should change up the dynamic of the dual lane, and who knows, maybe could even change up the team dynamic as a whole for this Eldritch Hounds team.
I think when you really look at the difference between Stu and Coast and just how they play, how they want to do stuff, it's a complete dynamic shift for both of these teams, or for this team. I think it's going to completely change up how they're going to play. They can't really play around duo as much as they'd want to. Stu a lot more willing to farm. Curious to see what the Hounds do instead, how they're planning on playing it. Excited to see this set, how both these teams play with their roster changes. Excited to see how Stu meshes kind of with NeilMah, seeing how they work out together. And just going to be overall a really good set where we're going to see a lot with these two teams.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot in depth about these two teams in the death segment. You're going into this one all throughout the set. But looking at the schedule, you may have just missed it. Styx Ferryman, a 3-1 win over the Gladiators. Gladiators with their new addition to the roster and their role swap for Snoopy. Looked really good for this team, and I've got high hopes for the Gladiators moving on in the phase, but weren't able to quite close this set out. That one, again, does go to Styx Ferryman. We move into the Camelot Kings and Eldritch Hounds for our final set of today. And then a look at the standings. The Styx Ferryman, with their win, move up to a 4-1 in the standings, up over the rest of in their division. Still sitting second, though, right ahead of them. The Atlantis Leviathans, with their win over the Ferryman yesterday, puts them at 5-1 at the top of the standings. Though I do believe, and this is just technically if we get to that point at the end of the phase, if it is a tie 9-1 between those two teams, I do believe Styx Ferryman would be ahead because of the head-to-head. But that's all numbers and semantics when we get to that point, if that even happens. Right now, though, Camelot Kings and Eldritch Hounds, the big matchup to kind of talk about here. I think talking about the Eldritch Hounds is probably the biggest one of these ones with the new addition to their roster. As you mentioned, Snoopy now joining over to this team could change up how this team really kind of plays their game. Previously we had NeilMah, you had Vaporsh Coast kind of running down as this combo. Coast likes to be this very aggressive style of player on that team. Stuart, not so much. Stuart tends to be more of this kind of sit back, farm, wait till level 20, get my 4 or 5 items online, then jump over to these team fights, which really could kind of change the game plan and maybe even some of the drafts of this team.
And I think the Hounds now have to kind of find a new identity and a new style of how they want to play. I think you consider how the Hounds have played through the previous 9 months or whatever it is. They were a very duo-centric team, but now with Quig gone, left a month ago, now with Coast gone, left 3 days ago, this dual lane has now completely changed. Ducky is still not a lane-dominant player. He's a player that likes to rotate, he likes to farm up, he likes to hit level 20. Benny is pretty much the same way. So I think a lot of the onus for this team is going to fall onto Oathhh and what he is able to do in that early game. NeilMah's never really been a hard carry-esque early game support. He's putting resources and help into his teammates. And either Stu, in my opinion, is going to have to change up how he wants to play, or Oathhh is going to have to help his team a little bit more and play as a hyper carry early and not as much play for that late game like the rest of the team would like.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid point to bring up kind of how Oathhh's dynamic had to change, and also even bringing up maybe how NeilMah will have to shift things up. And we did get a chance to talk to NeilMah. Well, this was before the roster change had happened, so we'll get to see what Neil's thoughts were before, but with the asterisk that this was before he knew that he was going to have a new ADC in his lane.
I think that we're just happy to just break the seal, just get a result. And at the end of the day, that's just the most important thing. We just need a bit of momentum flowing. I think we still have a lot of work to do, honestly, but it's nice to see a lot of the effort we're putting in paying dividends. And I think just getting that win column is just going to help band everyone together and start buying in and believing to some of the things we've been working on. So really happy with how we played this week. Moods are really high. I mean, not to lie, we've been a bit down in the dumps the last couple weeks. Played a really hard schedule, though, so there's a bit of glimmer of hope. And then just to see all the work you're putting through, right? Like, just seeing returns on what you've been working on has been amazing. So I think everyone's feeling great after this week. I think their team is kind of like us, just been struggling a lot recently. They look pretty disjointed, and they look like they need some momentum, too. I think that our team matched up really well into them, and I mean, if we just keep the ball rolling, I think we're going to have a really good set against them. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it gets a bit scrappy and sloppy, to be honest. That's kind of just how our teams have been playing, not the cleanest of games. So I could expect it to be a bit of a slugfest and exciting for the fans, and I think we win 3-1, I'd say.
Scrappy nature of play, and I think that even now with their roster change could still potentially hold true, at least for the Eldritch Hounds going up against the Camelot Kings. And I think talking about the Camelot Kings is another important discussion point, because start out this phase, great, 2-0 in week number 1. After that, very tough schedule for them, playing against 2 of the top teams in the league, losing out on both of those ones, and then even just recently, a bit of a hard loss for them as well. So the Camelot Kings, don't want to say they're on a downward trend, but going up against some of these higher-seeded teams has been a bit of a struggle for this team. What is it here for the Camelot Kings, Bobby, that you would really like to see kind of improved on going up against this Hound squad?
I think it's almost a confidence thing for this Kings team. I think they've shown bright spots. I don't think there's any way we're going to say that this team has not looked good for this entire phase. But just looking back to last week, that was not a Kings team that you expected to see. They were very disjointed, as Neil said, very sloppy. They weren't really making smart plays. I think we need to see an improvement in confidence, an improvement in the ability to kind of just commit and trust each other. I think it comes with time. When you make roster changes, especially when somebody as vocal as Genetics as your old support, it's still going to take time. I know it's been 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. It's still going to take time. You're not building Rome in 3 weeks. So every week they need to see improvements. Last week was not a week that you want to think about. You want to put that behind you. And this week you want to just move forward and make good showings against the Hounds.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that kind of stood out as a little odd from the Kings has been some of their drafts. I mean, the draft, I go to game number 1 yesterday. Very questionable at the style. It was a double warrior, double guardian, and then a single hunter kind of thrown in there. But 4 of the picks that they went to just got hard countered by a Ymir. So it really feels like some of the draft might need to be cleaned up. I'd like to see maybe some heavier emphasis on getting a pick for CaptainTwig earlier on in these drafts, because it seems that if Twig doesn't get his pick within the top 3, he's getting target banned when it comes to the second wave. He's eating 3, 4, maybe even 5 bans by that point, and hasn't really found kind of that backup go-to right now. You know, the Lancelot looked really good from at the start of the phase, but now every single match we go into with the Kings, that Lancelot has been getting banned from him, and he hasn't really been able to find a groove on another pick just yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more of a confidence thing with him specifically. I do think it's the entire team also, but it starts and ends with supports and jungles when it comes to just how a team meshes and plays together. So I can't really put it all on Twig, but I think just getting like a couple wins together will make him feel a whole lot better. And I think the Kings really should be looking to play through Jarcorrr. I think he is kind of this end-all be-all for this team. I think that is the duo point of the map that you want to look at. Yes, BigManTingz is great. Yes, Variety is great, but I think it starts and ends with Jarcorrr.
Yeah, Jarcorrr really has been a shining beacon of hope with this team. Between him and BigManTingz, they've been looking very strong in their respective roles. And kind of talking about Jarcorrr, and again, up against now Stuart on the opposite end, we can kind of even try and take maybe a look at the comparison of these two god pools between the players. It's very small in the Hunter god pool. Remember, this is, at least for now, just this phase for these two players. It's not like we're looking at the the full season 10 so far, but there's not much that Stu hasn't played outside of the norm. As you can see, he's only had 5 gods, and those have been pretty much the 5 meta gods in the Hunter role. Really, the only outliers here have been for Jarcorrr. The Amaterasu, that was a one and done. Not really going to count that one in there too much, but on her Heimdallr, Oathhh is one of those ones that's kind of been bouncing back and forth between a few of the different players. Heimdallr really only this last week has kind of been showing any kind of irrelevancy there. So going at least between the two, as far as this phase has been concerned, not too much difference in their own pools.
Yeah, it's a little wild that Stu's been picking the same, 5 gods. And it seems like the Glads, when they do their P's and B's, they prioritize getting Stu one of those top-tier gods. And I'm curious to see how the Hounds are going to change up P's and B's when it comes down to it. Because Coast is happy to play these top-tier gods. But Coast is also happy to counterpick and pick that on her in that second phase, or Rama, Heimdallr in that second phase. So it really just kind of comes down to how these Hounds want to change up how they're playing, how they're picking. Is it going to be relying on getting Stu a power pick? Is it going to be relying on Stu just getting that counter pick? Time will tell. We'll see in P's and B's, but that's kind of the thing that I'm most excited about.
I think you're right to bring up the priority that the Glads team had for Stu and making sure that he got a Hunter early. And you look on the flip side of that, the Eldritch Hounds weren't necessarily forcing a top pick. You know, we got to get a Magical Hunter right now. We got to get this for Coast. Sometimes we go 4th, 5th pick for Coast before we ever even see something there. So wonder how the Eldritch Hounds will adapt to that as we jump into the picks and bans for game number 1. Camelot Kings versus Eldritch Hounds. Kings taking that first pick spot. I do wonder if we will see the Lancelot banned away by the Eldritch Hounds. That has been the common ban of every single team ever since the stellar performance that CaptainTwig had on that pick. He has not gotten it except for, I believe, 1 time since then. Outside of that, has been banned by every single team on every single game. It will be the Amaterasu and the Thor to start things out for the Camelot Kings. Other side, Eldritch Hounds, they're just sticking with the meta pretty much on both sides. Yamoja and Chernobog both banned away.
Chernobog, I think, is the biggest point of contention. We saw it a lot in the last set, and I think that god is kind of considered the end-all be-all of ADCs. He's the one you need to pick around, ban around. Oleron, after his nerfs, not seen as many bans, not as many prio, but he's still up there as a top-tier character. Lancelot, as you alluded to, with CaptainTwig, banned away. And the Kings, with the first pick, Athena. Even after the nerf, the flat damage on the ult, the mitigation also while landing ult onto somebody, Athena is still getting a lot of prio. She's still very dominant. The ability to just dash taunt to start a fight or to pull a relic cannot be understated, and the global should be the last thing we touch on, where it is absolutely broken.
Yeah, it's really good having, you know, what is it, 20% movement speed to the target you get. Even if it is 30% damage mitigation, that's still 30% damage mitigation. And the damage is kind of the cherry on top if you manage to land on top of an enemy at that point. Just such a strong god, the initiation. It's just a very easy 1-2 style. One of my favorite stories I like to tell about just how bread and butter Athena is. We had a collegiate show match years back at one of the DreamHack events, and there was a sub for a team who jumped in. Their support player wasn't able to show up. They got into an accident actually that morning. They were fine. No worries on that. I'll make sure to clarify. The support player was fine. But they had a support player from a game that they didn't even play SMITE. They weren't even a SMITE player. They jumped in, said, yeah, I'll help you out on this one. They said, okay, here you go. Here's Athena. What does she do? Press 1, press 2, and we tell you. He did not look like the sub on that team. He looked like one of the best players. It was insane just how simplistic this god is, but can really make a team look so strong in a position given like that. So the Athena for the Camelot Kings. But opposite side, one of the priority mages, Raijin, locked in for the Eldritch Hounds. And then the Heimdallr. So we will get to see Stu now add that. So 6 gods now for Snoopy, and can now move that Heimdallr off of just Jarcorr's pool into that shared pool for them.
And Heim is a good god opposite of Raijin, because Heim and Raijin combo together well in the backline, as one god is super safe and one god is very, very strong if they aren't the one getting gone on. Raijin puts out a ton of DPS, Heimdallr plays super safe. Now they just kind of have to stack correctly, where Stu's playing a little bit farther forward. So, Benny, sorry, I couldn't think of the mid. Benny is actually able to get a lot of damage off. On the opposite side, Wukong for variety, Baba for BMT in the mid lane, and Hercules for Ducky. Nothing too weird. I do think Hercules, being proud as much as he is, somewhat surprising, but when you have Alma banned, it's not that surprising. And I also think Ducky looks like one of the best Hercules in the league whenever he locks it in.
So, now we move into the second half of bans. Ratatoskr, which has been kind of the rise up in the jungle. We saw it was kind of almost exclusive to a couple of different junglers at the beginning of the phase. Now we've been seeing just about everybody kind of dip their hands into the Ratatoskr basket. So we will see that one banned by the Eldritch Hounds. Serket on the opposite end by the Camelot Kings. So the ever-present worry of what does CaptainTwig go to continues to rise as we see more and more of these junglers banned away. Camazotz from the Eldritch Hounds. Also, this could just be a complete bait and switch. Maybe this Athena is going to CaptainTwig the entire time, and it's just wasted bans by the Eldritch Hounds, to be determined as the rest of the draft goes through. But Serket and Khepri, I like seeing the Khepri ban when you want to go for this all-in dive style of composition, or if you just want to get that extra bit of safety to the backline. Khepri's been a great pick and a great look for a lot of supports.
I also think Khepri, along with Yamoja, are two of the best backlining supports in the game right now. And when you're playing Athena, you're not necessarily playing to kill the enemy backline, but you want to be able to kill somebody. And what does Khepri do better than anyone else? He stops you from being able to kill somebody. Hounds opt for the Cerberus. Most likely means we're getting a Cerb support. Always potential for Herc support. Hasn't been played too much this entire year, let alone this phase. And when we see Cerb, he flexes both to solo and support. So Neil, most likely on that Cerberus. Kings with their last 2 picks, unless, like you said, Athena is going into the jungle. We're going to need to see Twig's god, and with how many junglers are banned, how many, assassin bans, Thor, Serket, Lance, Kama, Rat, 5 jungle bans. Twig's going to have to go deep into his god pool to try to find something. And like you said, outside of that Lance, Twig has not looked all too great. There's a lot of... I think a lot of the pressure is getting put onto Twig that he's the one that needs to perform when it comes to this Kings team. I don't think Twig is one that lets pressure get to him. Opts for the Hun bots. You seem to be excited about this Hun bots.
Trelly and I have been calling for this Hun Bats for the last, 3 Camelot Kings set. I mean, it's almost baffling that this Hun Bats hasn't popped its way back in. It's been a CaptainTwig special for such a long time. Pretty much ever since he's become a jungler, Hun Bats is right up there in his wheelhouse of selections. It gives him something he can do damage on, something that once level 5 hits, he can control this map. Honestly, I'm just surprised it's taken this long for him to go to this pick.
Yeah, the bots is definitely a pick that makes sense for this team. And then the Jing for Jarcorrr. Hounds hovering the Quang, almost the exact opposite style of a Hun bots. Locked in. Nothing screams Oathhh quite like Quang. It's the style I think of when I think of Oathhh. Farming till 5. Once you hit 5, that's when you make your presence known around the map. And if you do get off to a big lead at level 5, 6, 7, 8, and you get a bunch of kills, you are absolutely terrifying when it comes to late game, and nobody wants to attempt to 1v1 an Quang when it comes to late.
So now, taking a look at the combined rosters here, the Camelot Kings and the Eldritch Hounds. I look at the Kings. You have that very easy initiation with the Athena, dash taunt, probably burning a set of beads. Now you have some follow-up to maybe get a little bit of pressure with those beads. Now knowing that there's a double threat between the Hun Bats, between the Athena, puts a lot of emphasis on there. Opposite side for the Eldritch Hounds. It's almost similar, but maybe a little bit more single target. Hercules is always going to be that quick. I get hit by the 2, need to beat so I don't get pushed back. Then it opens the door for Cerberus or Quang execute. So, I guess the question I'll pose to you is what's the pacing for this kind of a game? Is this a game where both teams are fine sitting back, waiting towards late game? Or is this one that has maybe a little bit more early emphasis for one of the two?
When we consider comps, I think both teams do want to play for late game, and then you add in the players that are playing these comps, and I would be really surprised if this game is a scrappy early portion game. I would assume this is going to be a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes maybe even before we start seeing fights at all. Maybe like an invade here, an invade there, but I don't expect to see too much fighting. Both of these teams are very happy playing for late. As we saw, the Kings have actually made kind of like their entire team around this macro style that they like, and the Hounds, same way. I think both of them, especially with Coach no longer being on this Hounds team, I think Stu's always happy to farm, so I'd expect both these teams to kind of play for that more mid to late game.
And kind of talking about, maybe the emphasis for CaptainTwig here now on this Hun Bats. You've got that level 5 aggression, jump in, a Fear No Evil is real easy. Talk about maybe some growing pains, at least for the dual lane side of the Eldritch Hound. So if you're CaptainTwig, do you maybe now kind of rotate over to this dual lane once that level 5 hits and try and put some pressure on Neil and Stu? Or do you just sit back and still just kind of wait for things to grow a little bit more?
I mean, you can kind of play just either way that you want. I think it comes down to just how the team is kind of practiced. When a lot of these new teams kind of first settle in, it comes down to how do their first 2 sets, first 2 scrims happen. And I think it's really just up in the air which one it ends up being. I would be not surprised if duo is like a focus, but again, it's kind of just up in the air.
We'll have to see if the Camelot Kings can find their bounce back. It's been a rough last few sets for these guys. Definitely looking for themselves to be able to find a win. Eldritch Hounds were able to get a big win for themselves last week, so seeing if they can continue to maybe ride on the momentum that they'd had from their prior set win to see at least who can take the advantage and get that first game win, because it's going to be an important game 1 for both these two teams. Camelot Kings, Eldritch Hounds square off. We'll throw it over to our casters, Gore and Trelly.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Inbound. That's right, it is Gore and Trelly. And then, of course, as we get into it, it's going to be Doug giving us the window into the battlegrounds. Kings and Hounds, Trelly. This is one that I'm really interested in, especially after yesterday. The Kings not having the performance I think they would have liked to have. And as J-Mac had just mentioned, that's not just yesterday. It was last week as well. A couple of sets that they've not been able to find some wins. Meanwhile, the Hounds, a long, hard-fought turnaround victory and favored slightly by the Twitch chat, 52-48. So the pressure is on. And I think a lot of this conversation, when you look at the Hounds right now, you got to talk. They've got a roster swap, technically 2 if you really want to look at it, because Neil, while he's been there for a few weeks, still new to the roster. Now you got Stu, so kind of an almost brand new duo lane. And you've got Oathhh. And that Kuang pick is definitely going to come up. But you know, you've got Oathhh, who's had some hot and cold games, and then you go to the other side, and it feels like after losing Genetics, the first set we watched without him for the Kings felt fine. And then the second set felt fine. They went 6-0 in maps. It felt like, okay, never mind, maybe they're still the Kings. But the last few weeks, that we've definitely noticed, or at least I've noticed, like the lack of that voice, right, and that style, that play that they've been able to have. And you know, Twig has definitely been under the magnifying glass for a lot of people in the jungle. And I think this jungle matchup might be one of the most important ones in the league right now, especially for a win in this set.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the Hun Batz in action. Like J-Max said, we've been desking the past like 2 or 3 Camelot Kings sets, and we're like, okay, they're banning out your Lancelot. Twig, why don't you go to that Hun Batz? Not necessarily that top meta pick, but certainly one that CaptainTwig in particular loves to go to, has so much success on, and at the very least feels comfortable. And I think that is something big for the Camelot Kings, to have Twig on a pick that he feels comfortable on. Real quick note, didn't really get to mention it, but BigManTingz does walk all the way over, above halfway in the left lane, just to stack that passive house up. If you walk the house up very far and then leave, it has to walk all the way back, and that'll get your passive right and stacked for you. And if you notice, he did go full multi-pots, didn't actually go for the health pot, because he essentially has a health potion waiting for him in the house if he stacks that passive up fully. And of course, you also get your potions, which means easy early clear, easy early pressure. What do the Camelot Kings do with it, though? Twig goes right, and I think that's because Ducky is so weak. If Ducky wasn't weak, you probably want to fight for the shield buff, right? You have pressure. But because Ducky's one-shot, maybe there's a gank attempt, Variety wants to try and keep him low. So Twig checks it out, grabs the cooldown buff as a consolation prize, but just want to try out his options, see if he could grab a first blood.
Meanwhile, shield buff, as you had kind of highlighted, does end up going over to the Hounds. So you're splitting those cooldowns. Unfortunately for Ducky, he has been kind of bullied pretty early on. The Hercules needing a little bit more protections online. Unfortunately for him, again, he can only afford the silver breastplate on the back. Has teleport, though. Nothing too crazy happening over there, but it is worth keeping your eyes on the side health bars, just in the event that Ducky ends up low again. And really, you know, Charlie, the big thing to me is the pace of game. When you've got an Kuang in the jungle, I'm not really expecting a whole lot from Oathhh in the first few levels. Maybe Hun Batz at level 5, but then you remember it's Twig. Twig likes to farm. And so, honestly, seeing Oathhh go for a speed buff invade at this point is maybe the most aggressive I would have ever expected to see an Kuang go.
I think as far as jungle goes, it's a pretty easy way to track where CaptainTwig's going to be, considering blue buff just spawned in, right? If you know CaptainTwig, if you know Variety, there's a pretty good chance he is going to be on that buff spawn. But now the question is, can you get this speed buff before CaptainTwig shows up? I'm thinking no, but Twig's going for red. He should have the sound cue to at least know he's here. And yeah, BigManTingz is onto this. Gets the steal, but now you just water illusion right in front of CaptainTwig. Oathhh might be in some trouble.
The Twig doesn't have ult just yet, though.
They just let him go.
A little bit of damage. They watch him walk away. And Neil steals the purple as well. I mean, that is about as good as you could ask for the Hounds without just picking up kills, right? It's 2 speed buffs. You walk away happily if you're Oathhh, and you steal the purple. Charlie, admittedly, looking at the charts, it didn't really make that big of a difference. But the mental difference, that's really where it's applied.
Yeah, I mean, Oathhh stole both speeds. That is annoying, at the very least, right? Twig walked up saying, he got one. No worries, there's always a second one. Just kidding. The Kuang was able to steal that away as well. Both junglers sitting at level 4. You were talking about level 5, big power spike for both, and of course, I tend to agree. But if you look towards the relics, right, when you're playing Kuang, what is your game plan? You want to try to go to duo, get a free execute on the support. Quig said, nope, I'm going to start the beads. That's going to be an easy, immune to that execute at the very least. And so, not an easy target over in duo lane. If you look towards solo, I mean, Variety's relatively safe, and for all things considered, has been winning the lane so far. I mean, you just poke out Ducky, forces teleport early, which means for the next minute and a half, Ducky can't come back instantly, whereas Variety should be able to get pretty close to a full Rune Forged, or if he wants, tier 2 and a Chalice, that could be the call as well. But no, he'll take the Rune Forged hammer off that back, and that's just going to be even easier for him to stick around. He had enough money for the Chalice as well, so yeah, he'll be sitting just fine in lane, which tells me Oathhh isn't going to see a kill opportunity there as well. So, not an easy opportunity for the Kuang to just get a free execute at level 5. Maybe start working on Quig's beads. That could be a good start.
Yeah, I have to find something somewhere. Also worth mentioning, at least if we're talking fight potential, right? The Hounds. Ducky used his boulder to secure a totem and hit the wave. Got to make sure there's some credit. He did also clear some minions with it. Benny just used his straight up on the mid wave, so they weren't really looking for a lot of that pressure, or at least that fight just yet, which unfortunately about like 10 seconds later, BennyQ saw a less than half health CaptainTwig, where maybe if he had ult, could have converted it into a first blood instead. We go past the 5-minute mark, still no kills on the board. You can see where some of the gold is manifesting. We do more early, might end up paying off a little bit more for Oathhh, but as we've been mentioning, not too much pressure there. It's on the green buff now. Twig was able to secure the left side speed buff, but has to watch as the green buff gets stolen away. Now Oathhh maybe getting aggressive. You had mentioned trying to play around Quig. Ducky does secure his own blue. Purple invade from the Hounds, and it's going to be successful one more time. And so while the Hounds haven't been able to find as much in terms of maybe that kill potential, that threshold to lock someone down, even to just burn a pair of beads on the Kings, they have been able, Jelly, to just walk into that jungle and cause a lot of trouble. Now up to the air, thrown back is Quig. Has to use the beads now. And that is maybe the golden opportunity. 160 seconds for Oathhh to potentially rotate over and get that execute.
And that's what I was waiting for. I mean, I think Neil had the opportunity to pull beads, or at the very least, to find some sort of aggression in this lane for a while, but you can't really go for it until, number one, Stuart's there to try and, counter out as well. Really force that fear in Quig that he has to use the beads. And then number two, can Oathhh even get to this side of the map in time to make use of that execute? Perfect opportunity now. I think that Quig's going to have to watch his position and can always channel Defender of Olympus, but standing still for that long when there's a good portion of the Eldritch Hounds around you might be enough to guarantee the kill even without the execute. So I definitely want to see some pressure put onto Quig in the next 2 minutes or so. This duo lane isn't one that gets pressure naturally, though. Jarcorrr on the Jing way, you're not really stepping up. The only benefit is right there. You can sort of silence out, or I guess taunt out the ghastly breath. But it's not going to be easy for Oathhh to even find anything here because, again, the Camelot Kings are not playing for pressure. They're not playing to fight. They're just trying to clear waves and back up. So as much as I wanted to see a gank, I don't think Oathhh is going to force anything over on the left side of the map. It's just they're not going to step too far out of position.
And so instead, Trelly, I have to turn my eyes towards the farm game, right? If the Kings are only going to play the farm game, that's what we got to rely on. Gold, 500, 600 over towards the Hounds. Actually, a pretty solid amount considering the fact that you haven't had any kills online. Still have all the towers left standing as well. But experience comes into my mind. I see a level lead for a majority of the Hounds players as well. So these invades, while we've only seen them once every now and then, they've been on repeat. And so now they're starting to stack up. And I'm looking at Oathh's positioning, maybe looking for a little bit of a fight. Green buff's about to spawn in. So if we're looking at steals this next wave around, purple seems the only one likely. Benny in trouble in mid, has to thunder crash forward. Twig comes in, fear no evil used, but it does not matter. The ult from BennyQ, just not enough damage, not enough turnaround, and not enough escape. Dropped down, and first blood to Twig 8 minutes in.
Yeah, this is a great taunt by Quig there, right? And the follow-up from BigManTingz to force out that thunder crash immediately. Once you find that down, pretty easy to punish a Raijin. I think Twig just drops the ultimate there for residual damage to make sure that BennyQ goes down for first blood. Loses the ult, loses the beads, loses his life, and going over to Twig is definitely a good start. The Camelot Kings were in a position where they were getting out farmed across the map, some buffs taken away. But, number one, BennyQ being dead for a couple seconds means that BigManTingz can send a wave under, get some free farm, sort of start to build back up a bit of that gold deficit. As well as BennyQ has to be very careful that Quig's not here again, right? Another dash taunt around the beacon, another dash taunt when you're trying to clear a green buff could mean that you're just getting taunted into another Fear No Evil, because Yoden's Wrath was up. CaptainTwig had the cooldown. This ult will be back up well before those beads.
Well, that's the dangers. What you face in mid lane, 99 seconds for BennyQ. Thunder Crash is a good ability for disengage as well. I mean, he almost got out of there if it weren't for the fact that they were very willing to dump down pretty much everything they had in their arsenal. But the Kings got the kill, and that's what matters most. And like you said, Trelly, brings us to pretty equal. Gold lead, experience that was starting to be different, at least in some of the roles, specifically in jungle and mid. That gets brought back within a very easily controllable position. But you got to be careful for the damage. Ult used by BigManTingz. Immediately, Thunder Crash forward for BennyQ. Now met by Quig. Going for the ult. Damage is good, but you just do not have the lockdown. And more importantly, you do have the mitigations. Quig with the great ult. Helps save Tingz' life, get him back under the tower.
Yeah, I think great ult by Quig. Not sure if it was 100% necessary, but there was not any more chase down because of that Defender of Olympus. So good eye just to make sure to keep BigManTingz alive. You could tell Oathhh really did want to try and dive that tower, but it just did not seem possible because of the immediate ult from BigManTingz, right? He didn't sort of sit around and say, can I take this damage? He said, nope, not going to figure it out. Immediately going to go into that ultimate. There's a little bit of pressure on the left side of the map. I saw, I really thought he was about to pop Dragon Call on the Gold Fury. Seems like at least a beats force from Quig. That will be the case, but can you get away from Oathhh in the meantime? Is the question. Look at the ult from Quig, though.
Separates the Hounds as they go for the chase. Sit through the skies, though, thanks to Stu. And now the question is, where does Oathhh put their focus and where does everybody else? Twig's low. Neil needs a little bit more help from his team, but the autos are there. Oathhh has chased down into mid lane, goes for the execute, finds it onto Quig, and does he have the distance?
No.
Try and close this, or if not, just land in the jungle. What can he fight? He does land on the left side. Moves forward, experience buff. Twig is low. This might not be a fight you want to reveal yourself for. Hits the monkey. And then immediately says, no, actually, I'm out of here. Variety. Teleported all the way over here. Misses the Master's will. Goes up to the somersault cloud. There is a dash forward from Oathhh, and that should be all she wrote. A kill for the Hounds. One narrowly escapes, and Oathhh happily gets to run back to his tier 2.
Yeah, that was almost real sketchy, though, for the Eldritch Hounds. But Oathhh had a choice, right? I mean, beautiful ult from CaptainTwig, but I don't think Oathhh realized how low CaptainTwig was going to get from the ultimate from Stuart. Remember, Twig doesn't have beads. He landed through the realms with no sort of HP. Could have been an easy execute target, but Oathhh decided to chase down Quig, who also didn't have beads, was a little bit faster, had a little bit more gap close, but was an easy execute if he could get close. Ends up diving the tower, thin margins, but could have just taken the free kill from CaptainTwig. Maybe just trusted his team to be able to confirm that. Either way, ends up getting the kill, stealing away the chest camp to boot, but the Camelot Kings are the ones in possession of the beacon. I think he's going to take a lot of damage here. It looks like the King should be able to grab this. I don't see anyone from the Hounds getting here anytime soon.
Yeah, numbers advantage. BennyQ's here. And they've slowed it down, Shelly. It's on that last slice of pie, and there's going to be an ult from Neil. Pulls him back. CaptainTwig matches 1-for-1. So does BennyQ. Throws out a lot of damage. Thunder Crash forward, and the damage is there. The jungler this time does get sliced down. And the Hounds find themselves a kill. Benny running from that magical fire. And it's the beacon we have our eyes on. Reset back to neutral. Now the Kings in control. Quig, Tingz, Jarcorrr all here. So beacon control goes to the Order team. Kill control goes to the Hounds.
Yeah, I've been liking the pressure put on a BennyQ, but I don't think you want to make it a habit of dropping Fear No Evil onto BennyQ for damage, right? I understand, hey, when the ult ends, if he doesn't wait it out, if he cancels, then the fear is there. But it does seem like the past two Fear No Evils dropped on BennyQ were just for residual damage. The first one confirmed the kill. That was fine. But this time around, you probably wanted to get a bit more value out of it, at the very least. Able to find the beacon, which is what the Camelot Kings were going for in the first place. But nice gank on the Variety. Would have resulted in the kill. But it seems like immuning that execute was the call. And even though Oathhh is close by, he's going to have to hit his 2. Not easy. And the blink from Variety confirms that he's not getting a kill here.
And that does send Variety back, but teleports on cooldown, right? Or off cooldown, I guess. So it's going to be just fine. He can show up relatively soon, unless Ducky could say, take this tier 1 in time. I think the teleport gonna just go through. But Ducky gets the first tower of the game over in right. And Charlie, that's exactly what I love. You know, seeing the charts, 3,000 experience, 2,000 gold now. That has gone into their favor. And it is these really slow rolls, right? We haven't seen too much, you know, BennyQ just now having to use his beads in mid. It's been things like that. The fight's kind of going back and forth. 3 kills on the board, nothing too crazy. But this neutral farm has been, and the farm in general, has been leaning towards the Hounds the entire game, and now we're starting to see enough of a lead that they could build on it.
Right, and you can see those leads sort of already showing themselves. I think Oathhh from the get-go has been farming just a little bit quicker, a little bit better than CaptainTwig, but BennyQ's had a consistent 1-level lead on this Raijin, despite how much, you know, how much pressure, how many taunts have been coming his way. And then Jarcorr's just been under tower. I mean, Stuart's had free reign over on the left side of the map. It seems like he can do no wrong. He just walks up, takes shield buff when he can. Was sort of walking towards Gold Fury as well just to check if there was any ward coverage. Because there's no pressure on the left side of the map. Finally, there was a little bit, forcing Stuart to teleport out. But he's got beads, he has Aegis, and he has his ultimate. Not thinking an ult will come through anytime soon. A good roll from BigManTingz pulls the Magi's off of NeilMah. Now he's getting pressured.
Damage is there. The follow-through doesn't seem to be. You got Ducky, who's rotated in. Jarcorrr, Twig, getting chased down in the jungle. You've got all 5 hounds over here, so you're either getting a fight or you're getting a Fury. And the option seems to be Fury. The Kings slowly retaliating. Now are going to opt in for a fight. Neil's low, Neil's one hit, and that's all you need. Quig goes in, gets it. Twig going to chase in alongside his teammates, trying to find a through line to the back. Goes to BennyQ, drops the ult, and is just going to get eaten by Benny there as he turns some damage around, and they kill off the jungler 1 for 1 so far. Some low health bars on either side. Jarcorrr forced over the wall, using the Jing way to stay safe, and it is just going to stay at those 1 kills. Fury left standing. But Trelly, you have to think the Hounds feel a little bit better with how they came out of that one.
So far, Stu's not done though. Remember, Jarcorr's ult was forced and he's getting pressure, but yeah, I guess all the Hounds are gone. I was going to say, you might have time for a repull because Ducky's still around, relatively healthy. The rest of the team surging forward. Look how much pressure Stu has. This should definitely be another gold attempt, but looks like that's it. The Hounds are not interested in going for a repull. They're already back over to right lane. They're going to take their small trade and just get out. Stuart did teleport though. Oathhh, NeilMah nearby. Remember, Jarcorrr doesn't have that ultimate, so there could be a little bit of a chase down, but without blink on Oathhh, diving this tower does not seem like something you want to go for. And CaptainTwig shows up just to, give Jarcorrr some breathing room.
Yeah, extra body.
Yeah, ward coverage may be the difference maker there. If the Eldritch Hounds know there is nobody nearby, then that could have turned into a repull. But playing safe seems to be more their speed. It's going to be the reset. Still relatively even, all things considered.
Yeah, the later this game goes, which admittedly, given how the Hounds, first off, have a swap, but just how they've played, and the Kings, period, kind of makes sense. We'd probably be hitting late game, having a lot of late game conversations. But like you said, we're in a spot right now where all that gold lead and all that eventful nature of the Hounds invades, even the Gold Fury pull, without it actually happening, they aren't as far ahead as they could have been. Pyromancer seemed to be an option for the Hounds. They drop that the instant the Ducky shows up. Meanwhile, for the Kings, the Hounds are going to answer back by going for the Fury. Jarcorrr spots it out, Quig comes over, Kings walk in and just take that one away, and Neil has to jump to make sure he can save his life. Now you've got the fight brewing, there's a good Fear No Evil, forces the beads from Stu, and has him on the retreat. Oathhh comes in around the side, has damage. Looks like immunity is going to be there. Blink, you need to wait it out. Do you have the beads? Yes, Jarcorrr does, and the damage follow-up is there as well. Oathhh unable to get anything done on the left, and a kill for the Kings, as well as a steal on the Fury. A great couple of plays for the Order team.
Well, I mean, Oathhh even leading with the ult there is questionable. You either ult immediately or you go for DPS knowing the beads and Aegis are available. Either way, gets punished heavily. Just sort of stalled. It looked like he missed his input or something, but now the Eldritch Hounds are trying to defend the beacon, or trying to capture it for themselves. With the Camelot Kings, they've got pressure, they've got damage on a Ducky. Force the beads out. Can you dive this tower? They're going to try.
They're going to jump in. Ducky taking a lot. Tower's going to go down. That's going to help out quite a bit. They aren't going to dive the tier 2, though. Play it a little more safe. Force the ult from Neil. Force the ult from Benny. And instead turn their eyes towards the Pyromancer. That's going to get picked up. Neil, Benny are still hanging around the neighborhood, but there's not much you can do about this one. So they're going to drop that beacon up. But again, numbers advantage goes over to the Kings. And unless Oathhh is going to show up and play spoil sport, it looks like the Kings' neutral objective here from 17 minutes now to 19. It's all going to come up in their favor. And Trelly, we're talking about them having the 2,000 gold lead for the first time this game.
Yeah, but the XP still has to be so heavy in the Hounds' favor, right? I mean, they look at the XP difference. Stuart's got 2 levels. I guess it is a bit of a switch up. Yeah, Stu's got 2 levels. BennyQ's still up. I guess the only real difference maker is the fact that Variety has been able to pull ahead. Besides that, seems a bit questionable so far. The Hounds, unfortunately, just let Jarcorrr walk up. I mean, a good blink ton in from Quig to get the aggro off the Fury, and then Jarcorrr is able to steal with an auto attack. After that, losing the fight, was able to bring the Camelot Kings back in gold-wise. The Eldritch Hounds still should be feeling relatively confident. They don't have to fear a fight, right? They have plenty of time to just hit some power spikes, group up towards the right side of the map. But as we've seen time and time again, if you don't have any level of crit damage, it's not easy to go for any sort of Fire Giant pull, which Stuart does not have. Jarcorrr has passively, of course, just with his second ability, but you're going to want to build into a bit before Fire Giant starts looking like a viable strategy. Once again, NeilMah loses that Magi's bubble. Has not been too valuable, unfortunately, because there's just so much ease of pulling it away. I mean, the Camelot Kings have plenty of options to just get that bubble gone. With all the objectives down, looks like the Camelot Kings are just diving tower.
And you know what? It's going well for him. Stu barely escapes out of that one. Twig wants to chase him down, has the toss, has the ult, and has the overhand smash. Gets him just inside the tier 2. Meanwhile, his team knocks down the tower. You've got a retaliation. Neil still over here. BennyQ rotates in. Oathhh v Variety. It should be Oathh's win, but with Quig coming through, that's going to keep things from straying too far in favor of the Hounds. That 1 kill pickup, a massive one for the Kings. And now, Trelly, map state, we're talking about it. The tier 1 tower on right was the first to fall for the Kings. And they've lost their tier 1 and left, but since then have knocked down every tier 1 of the Eldritch Hounds and given themselves an advantage.
Yeah, Stuart, more than anyone, someone who plays extremely safe. 2 seconds before both of his relics were up when he gets dove by CaptainTwig there. Could have been a turnaround, but he had nothing available. And that was just a great force by Quig over in the tier 1 tower to say, we got 3v2. Let's go forward. Let's try and get this tower down. They do. Let's try and kill Stuart. CaptainTwig does. And then he still makes it over to Variety, ulting to the right side of the map to confirm that Variety doesn't go down to any sort of damage from Oathhh. Camelot Kings are definitely turning on the afterburners here. Fury's going to be spawning up here shortly, but look where Stuart is. He's not on the left side of the map. They're going for a Fire Giant pull. They've all walked over a ward, though. This is known.
Teleport going to come in from Variety. Meanwhile, you've got Quig, Twig, walking in the old-fashioned way, not too far behind are Tings and Jarcorrr. Fire Giant halfway through. Variety forcing the Somersault Cloud early. It's going to be a separated fight. A taunt from Quig onto BennyQ, forces the beads, forces the dash, gets the mid laner for the Hounds out of there. The damage from the Kings is a lot in just a little bit of time there, Charlie, and he didn't even have the main carries for a majority of that, so Quig finds some good pressure, stops the Fire Giant, and now look at the ward coverage as it swaps. It is all Kings as they drop their inventory down to make sure that they cannot try to sneak like that again.
Yeah, and that was the issue. The ward coverage from the Kings was there even before the pull, right? They just had one sneaky ward that showed everyone walking forward. Variety will be just fine, despite not having beads. Would have to get pulled back to really fear his life. But it seemed, I saw the Camelot Kings, they did ping that Fury, and that's what they're going for now. Just Jarcorrr and BigManTingz, no other rotation necessary. This should go down for free. Once those Oni minions push up, Jarcorrr hit level 20. I mean, he was 3 levels down to Stuart. That is no longer the case because of the ease of Jing Wei passive sort of flying back and forth between farm. Now you can look towards a Pyromancer. You can try your hand at a Fury. Plenty of damage for the Camelot Kings. And they've got their gold lead. Put a Runic Bomb in CaptainTwig's pocket already. Loving this so far from the Kings.
They're going to have a small reset. Knock up from Ducky here in mid. It's good. 23.5 in, 4-3 in favor of the Kings. But Trelly, more importantly, is the fact that they are just about 500 gold shy of a 5,000 gold lead. Pyromancer goes over to the Hounds. That's going to cut into that lead just a little bit in the fight. Breaks out immediately. Good CC, good damage, but you just don't have enough follow. You don't have enough survivability. BennyQ and NeilMah deleted off the board, and the Kings are going to chase this one down, and they're going to chase it down happily. Jarcorrr with a double kill finds Stuart. Oathhh TKO'd, knocked back to base. It seems like Ducky's going to have to run to the left side of the map. Fire Giant open and easy for the Kings to step in and take this one.
Yeah, grouping up in a small corridor with Tings around was not the good look that the Eldritch Hounds were trying to find. Now, CaptainTwig still had ultimate. He didn't even use Fear No Evil, man. That's how free it was. Just so much grouping. And of course, Quig has been finding these impactful taunts. This is the reason that Athena is just disgusting in the current meta. A part of all but one of the kills so far for the Camelot Kings. And Quig is not stopping now. Dash taunt charge, who's going to find? Maybe just grab a Magi's because this Phoenix is gone.
Yeah, at this point, the way Quig's playing, you'd think he'd hate his former teammates, man. The way he is in their face. And with some great taunts, great setups. Now, unfortunately for Neil, a lot of it has resulted in him losing the Magi's and then losing his life shortly thereafter. But BennyQ as well, you know, he's only 0-2, right? There's not a lot of kills on the board, 7-3. But the kills that have been happening, even beyond that, the pressure that's been put on Benny specifically.
Yep.
I was going to ask about it earlier because he skipped going. We saw the prophetic cloak for Tingz, and we've seen only kind of aggressive items for BennyQ. And that's just not been the style, right? I would say like the Paul build has really kind of taken over what mid, quote-unquote, should maybe be. And do you think that's what it is? Like, is BennyQ just too squishy? Should he swap one of these out for something that's going to give him some tanky stats, or should he just keep trying to be a glass cannon?
No, I respect the no breastplate. I think because Baba just stacks it up so perfectly, the cloak is a must-buy for BigManTingz, but everyone else, it's either that breastplate or nothing. And BennyQ wanted to do damage, and so far, he's done plenty of damage. He just has to watch out for the CC. That's the big issue here. Your position,
There's a lot.
Yeah, you don't have to build breastplate if your positioning is on point. You can stand back. You can, and it is very good. There's a reason that it's just so prominent at the moment. But the issue is that Raijin does not love this taunt, right? He tries to channel Thunder Crash, gets canceled, tries to dash away. Here comes CaptainTwig with another ult. It's very difficult for BennyQ to be in a good position because of all the CC that the Camelot Kings have to try and cancel him out. Titans are surging forward. That's something the Camelot Kings will have to deal with first. Here's another issue. If Quig is not starting the fight with a blink taunt, how easy is it to walk into Phoenix? Because no one else is pulling beads for CaptainTwig, right? He's not going to blink Fear No Evil to start the fight. You want to use that a little bit later. NeilMah already has that bubble. This is where that Magi's build really does start to thrive and be a little bit stronger. To get within range of NeilMah, you're either dashing or taunting as Quig, or dashing or blinking as Quig. And your first taunt being a waste is never a good look.
And that's something you have to deal with right now. Went in, gets pulled back by Neil, got the bubble,
there it is.
But loses his life for his trouble. Righty, now the only tank. Tingz goes up into the ult, gets some damage out there.
Oh my goodness, Benny, back
Push.
up.
Yeah, has definitely been great. Twig goes in, Twig drops the ult, has the overhand smash, but not enough damage to the Aegis. Buys BennyQ enough time to get out of there and get back into base. Variety with the Titan, gonna take mid-tier Phoenix and then immediately chase down a little more. Has to go up into the Somersault Cloud, as you now got all of the Hounds looking at you. Thunder Crash good to disrupt, but maybe a little too soon. Doesn't catch out the bird form. And the Wukong gets to walk away the old-fashioned way. Fire Giant still going to be there for a little bit, Trelly, but at this point it feels like they've done plenty. Every single tower on the Hounds side of the map down, and mid-Phoenix, right Phoenix taken away. A very successful FG.
Yeah, if I'm the Eldritch Hounds, I'm pretty upset about that one because exactly what I thought would happen did happen, where Quig blinks in, tries to initiate, instantly dies, wasted engage entirely. But guess what? Variety, as he gets executed here because he has no beats, Variety pushes up mid with the help from the Titan and just grabs mid-Phoenix for free. Even though all that was happening over on the left, that was the distraction. Mid-Phoenix goes down, so even in Quig's death, was not in vain. They still are able to break the base. Unfortunately, Variety sticks around for a blue buff and forgot that he didn't have his ultimate, and Oathhh was still stalking around. Camelot Kings, though, they have to wait for the Fire Giant to respawn. Might even be enhanced if this stalls out as much as I think it might. But Variety has to teleport, so he can sort of get involved immediately. He doesn't have to wait around and try and, you know, bird form towards the engagement. It's just, do the Eldritch Hounds have enough wave clear where they can clear out the fire wave in right, the infinitely spawning fire waves in mid for now, and then step up to this Fire Giant as well. Not going to be easy, because you don't have someone you'd really like to send. Oathhh can do it, but he's not going to be in the fight, and he's not going to be as sneaky if you know where he is clearing waves.
And this wave pushed pretty far up on right by the Hounds, but it is going to be slowly brought back. Phoenix is respawned. So the fire minions that are up here around the tier 1 tower line of the Hounds, it's the last wave of fire minions they have to deal with. And BennyQ did it without a whole lot of pomp or circumstance. They're just dead. And so right side suddenly going to be back to equal value. Mid, you still have to contend with if you are the Hounds. Fire Giant started by the Kings. You had mentioned How long could this dance take? It's 29:38. So you've got 20 seconds now until the FG becomes enhanced. It seems like that's going to be the case. Taunt goes in, and it's going to be just clipping the edge of Neil to pull the bubble. And a small reset for the Kings, knowing that all it takes is a blink taunt from Quig to really set things up. Fire Giant pulled one more time. Charlie, the Hounds have to figure out how they want to respond here. They're going to step forward. Fire Giant's getting melted. Ducky walks in. Ducky unable to get the push that he needs. There's a massive Fear No Evil from Twig, but he gets deleted. BennyQ finally gets to do the damage he's been waiting for and deletes the jungler from the Kings. Now pulled back is Variety. Stuart's kind of low. You have to play this carefully. Goes for his Bifrost and gets out of there. You've got Quig's ult coming in. So the Kings, they lose Twig. Force a couple resets from the Hounds, and the Fire Giant's left standing.
Yeah, but the Eldritch Hounds have time. They can go ahead and send Stuart back, let him clear out that fire wave, let him push up, try and get this Phoenix up. CaptainTwig's still gone for 30 seconds. The Camelot Kings, they have to decide right now, are they going to stick around? Are they going to stall? It looks like that's the play. Just stick around, play this one slow. They have plenty of time as long as the Eldritch Hounds don't get aggressive. But I think pulling EFG while Twig is still dead is the best option the Hounds have, and they're surging forward. Let's take a look at those relics. Not much. Stuart doesn't have anything, but he's got the Bifrost, and they are going to start this pull with Ducky zoning.
It's a graveyard. Ducky, like you said, on the zone. Quig is going to just walk into the pit. Fire Giant's at half health. Quig is now the target for the Hounds. If they can try to get the kill, they just can't do it. BennyQ dashes forward. It might be a mistake. Jarcorrr comes in. Crit,
oh my goodness.
Crit, the auto's too strong. He's too strong, and he takes care of one. Variety takes care of the other, and the back line on the side of the Hounds gone. Yeah, Oathhh finally gets his kill, but he dashes back down between Tings and Jarcorrr. Does he have the damage and the numbers? Twig is back into the equation, and suddenly the math is not going in favor of the Hounds. The numbers are on the other side, and the chase down is there to follow through. Ducky's low. Variety guesses wrong. It's just going to take a little bit of a waiting game. And then Ducky's going to go down as well. 4 off the board from the Hounds. It is NeilMah versus everyone. Sans Quig. Phoenix was taken care of thanks to Fire Minions. Titan at 2/3 health. All the Kings have to do is walk in and actually finalize the deal. They've got the damage. Variety gonna start tanking it up. Tings, Jarcorrr, they've got the numbers. They've got another just to get the deicide and also to win this game.
Man, that fight started to look real good for the Hounds, but number one, they split up, and number two, it seemed like BennyQ Thunder crashed right in front of Jarcorrr with no cooldowns available. Took 3 500 crits to the face, immediately regret that decision, but didn't have the relics to try and survive. Jarcorrr says, yeah, I'll take that kill, thank you very much, and I still have airstrike to try to escape. Once that happened, a lot of damage missing from the Eldritch Hounds. They sort of scattered. Yeah, Quig gets executed by Oathhh, but besides that, everyone was on retreat duty. I think Stuart took way too much damage from Fire Giant. You could tell he was upset that he was even in the pit at that point because he didn't have that level of sustain. Carries fall down, and the Kings just pick you apart one after another.
It was kind of a mirrored fight, right? You watch the Fire Giant right before that, and Twig goes in and just deleted. And that's like, okay, there's the damage potential of the Hounds. He's gone for 40 seconds. This is them for free. It's clean. This is their Fire Giant. And then, like you said, the next one you get BennyQ dashing in and deleted. And unfortunately for Stu and it seems like everybody else on the Hounds, that is where the floor kind of collapsed from underneath them. Kings look good, though. And Charlie, something they really have needed. It was 9 games in a row that they had lost. This is game 10 in that row, and finally they pick up a dub for themselves. We'll see if they can continue that and go up 2-0. If the Hounds are going to give us something special here as we take a quick break.
YouTube.com/SmitePro is the channel to go to if you want to see all of the behind-the-scenes content, or if you happen to miss one of our SPL Media Days. We're here on Thursdays, bring some of the pros out here into the studio, play some games, sit down and talk with the team, record some extra stuff. It all goes up live there on that channel. Even just looking at it right now, there's the team checking with the Oni Warriors. It just got uploaded today, so if you want to check that out. There's the team fight insight from Mifflin that we had the breakdown of the desk yesterday up on there, the recaps that we do every single day for our events, and so much more over on youtube.com/SmitePro, so make sure that you go check that out as soon as you can to see all the great content they have available to you. I'm Jay Mac Inbound. Joining me here on the desk as we break down game number 1. Now, while this wasn't a dominant or a flashy game by any means, I think that this is a good look for the Camelot Kings and a really good look for CaptainTwig on a pick like this. This Batz, while it didn't get involved super early, was allowing him to be able to set up for the rest of his team, allow Quig to be able to get up in, get these dash taunts, and more than anything, get to that late game so that Jarcorrr could have his pop-off performance.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the late game, and Twig played great late game. But we start with that early game, and he was losing a lot of speed buffs. Oathhh was taking his first 2 speed buffs, actually. But then that middle game started to happen. First kill of the game was this one right here, and it was a beautiful play by both Twig and by BigManTingz. Overall, this Batz looks way more comfortable than anything other than the Lancelot that Twig has pulled out. Everything that he's done in on this character was either pulling relics, just getting a good fight started, being able to put the Hounds in a position to either play into the Batz and risk them getting a big ult and grouping on that, or they just have to give up so much space that Batz just allows his team that much more room for control. I really think this Batz is a big point of contention for this next game. Also, I think the late game from the Hounds was a lot sloppier than the Kings. I think the Kings played really good Smite together when it came to these late game team fights. This Hounds comp, while it doesn't play all too great together, I think they want to play a little bit more split up. They kind of just got picked apart when it came to 5v5s.
Yeah, a lot of what I was noticing, at least some of the fault towards the Eldritch Hounds in this game, was the play around objectives, the fight around Gold Fury, no real clear communication of who was going to maybe secure the objective, if they were going to zone, if they were going to let the objective go whenever a couple of players walked up. As you saw in one of the highlights there, Jarcorrr literally just walked up to Gold Fury, hit it with a single in-hand, and was able to steal that one away. And then even some of these fights around, say, the Fire Giant, just looked a little bit sloppy on the side of the Eldritch Hounds. So both teams still need to clean things up for the remainder of this set, but at least a good start for the Camelot Kings. As mentioned by Gore at the very end, was on a 9-game losing streak for the Camelot Kings, so finding a big win to kind of reset their momentum, reset the mentals, and kind of get themselves back on the right foot here, at least for the remainder of this set and potentially moving forward. So love what we saw from the Camelot Kings. Now maybe for the adaptations from the Eldritch Hounds, we jump into picks and bans to see, does CaptainTwig get a chance to go to this Batz again? Is the Batz scarier than the Lancelot, or maybe do both of them warrants a ban from the Eldritch Hounds at some point? To be determined as we jump right in, at least immediately. No big change-ups. Amaterasu, Chernobog, Thor, Yamoja probably immediately next year for the Hounds, so we'll just run back exactly what we saw in game number 1. Why not? Throwing Ares there. All we need to see is the Lancelot, and we have the exact same run back of the bans.
And I think no Lancelot bans, so they're actually banning the Baba instead. And I was going to say, if these are the same exact bans, I think the second half bans are the ones that are going to be more important, because you have to then prio your gods differently if they really want that Batz. But they do ban the Baba. Athena first picked by the Kings again. I love the Athena. I don't think of Athena as this absolutely insanely broken god, but she just makes Smite so easily with how you play. 1v1s can turn into 2v1s. Dash taunting starts fights better than any other ability / CC in the game. And that style, when you are trying to get your feet back under you and start to learn Smite as a newer team, I guess, since they're not brand new with their changes, but a newer team, I think this Athena pick is perfect for them.
So Athena looked great for Quig in game number 1. No complaints so far. The 2 games that he's gotten at this phase have looked really good. Career-wise, 70% win rate on the pick as well, so not too bad for the support of the Camelot Kings to grab that pick. We'll be Raijin one more time for the Eldritch Hounds, but instead of the Heimdallr, we're going to see Stu pivot over to the Ishtar, which I think this will be his first game this phase on the selection. And I guess we can kind of just attribute this to Cyclone Spin kind of bringing this guy back in, because nobody was really playing the Ishtar. Cyclone plays it for a couple of sets. All of a sudden, we're seeing it a little bit more kind of popping up now.
I'm really high on the Ishtar. I think her falling out of meta was a little strange back, I mean, even 7 months ago or something. her falling out of the meta wasn't really her becoming weak. I think it was more so other characters just became so much stronger, but now those characters have kind of came back down to earth, and this Ishtar pick will dominate most lanes. Think of it like an Oathhh run and how good it is in lane. I love seeing this pick. I think it needs to be picked more. Maybe not prioed a ton, but if a ton of ADCs are banned, I'm down with it. Kings on the opposite side, they get that Lancelot for Twig, Variety back in that Wukong. Absolute comfort pick for Variety. I love that. And Ducky on the Hercules. Now, 0-1-1 last game wasn't in a lot of the fights. I don't mind running back the Hercules, but I think there's a couple other picks that could have gone here that have just a little bit more prio.
We start to see a few more bans pop up. Great performance by Jarcorrr in game number 1. Now warrants a ban of the Jing from the Hounds here in game 2. Khepri still going to be at the top of the mind. The Camelot Kings take that one away from the Eldritch Hounds. Then a bit of pressure over in mid towards BigManTingz. Now the Raijin already picked up, the Baba Yaga banned prior, and the Morgan Le Fay now eating a ban. Goes into question maybe where BMT goes for his mid lane selection. There's still plenty of options. We have seen, at least from Paul's side on the 6th Ferryman, Tiamat's been coming back, and if there's another big Tiamat player in the league, immediately my mind does go towards BMT, so some potential there. With one more ban by the Camelot Kings. Do we see some pressure back towards NeilMah? We do. Not in the area that I expected, though. Will be a Ymir pick, though. I guess looking at what the Camelot Kings have, Ymir pretty good against their composition.
Yeah, I think Ymir is actually probably one of the best picks, if not the best support pick into Athena. You can wall off dash, you can wall off taunt, you can also freeze her as soon as she comes into your range, and you can also just trade your ult if she ever dashes onto you. Honestly, a really good pick. I think counter picks are not really looked at a ton, even if, you know, there's some better Guardians in the game over Athena. Ymir's just a really good counter pick into her. Terra, obviously a better god than Ymir, but Ymir does have a better, you know, matchup, good into the King's comp. Terra, kind of just good in every single comp possible. Very rarely is she ever a bad character, and I like the pick here.
Does give the Hounds a bit more sustain, a bit of extra tankiness when walking through that monolith or having that ultimate online. So now to the Camelot Kings, we get to see what BigManTingz and Jarcorrr are going to be going for in their pickups for here for game number 2. Remember, it was a Baba Yaga and a Jing in game 1. Both of those have been banned away, so we'll have to see something different. No priority towards the Magical Hunters, at least in these first couple of games, and maybe to me that's a little surprising. Always felt like, not that necessarily that Stu can't play the physical ones to the same degree, but Stu really shined when the magical gods were really high up in the meta. I look back towards World Season 8 on his performance on gods like Freya and Olorun at that time. Even look towards, you know, kind of when those gods were bumping back up, Stu was having lights out games there. Not to say it's a bad thing for him to go to the Ishtar, but maybe surprised you don't see a little bit of a priority thrown that way. But still, we'll have to wait to see what the Camelot Kings go for in response. Do we see a magical hunter? I think that's kind of the pivot point I was trying to bring it to. Is just game 1, game 2, haven't seen really any of them pop up.
After the nerfs to Olo, the nerfs to Freya, I think they've kind of came back down to earth. They're no longer pick these gods or ban these gods / lose. It is now a, yes, these gods dominate laning phase. Well, Olorun specifically dominates laning phase. Freya a little bit better in the 1v1. But there's now just a bunch of other physical hunters that play really, really well in laning phase. And we see a Cupid, which is very strange to me for one reason. He picked himself into a counter matchup with the Ishtar. Ishtar is such a good pick into Cupid, but Cupid is very good into Terra. Cupid is very good into Hercules, and Cupid is, I don't want to say solid into Raijin because that's never really something you deal with, but Cupid's very good, just kill the frontliners that are going to be running at you, and that's what Herc and Terra want to do.
Maybe even this Ratatoskr too. Want to dive in as soon as you see the circle jumping in from the crash off of the branch. Throw that circle below you, dash away. Maybe good turn and burn potential. Also got to talk about the Vulcan drafted up by BMT. One of the only players still grabbing this pick. Not super frequently, but I believe he's the only one, at least this phase, kind of going towards the Vulcan. So what are your thoughts on Vulcan in this case? You know, you kind of gave your ideas to why the Cupid might be picked. Kind of really good into the gods that are diving you. Does Vulcan kind of have that similar mindset? I'm being dove by a Terra, by a Hercules. Does he have that same kind of self-peel potential?
No, not really.
No?
No, he does not have the same type of peel potential into a Terra, into a Hercules, or into a Rat. He's going to have a hard time living that. I think the upside of Vulcan is maybe a breastplate game. He builds into breastplate with Book very easily, so maybe a potential there. I'm not in love with a Vulcan pick. I think Vulcan, after his nerfs, he feels a lot worse. A lot of other gods play better in most matchups. And even in a game like this where he picks the Vulcan, I don't think this is a particularly great Vulcan game. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Maybe BMT pops off and I'll have to say, what a great Vulcan game. But it doesn't seem like a pick that I would think works incredibly well with this comp.
Now I'm kind of digging back to maybe some of the older days of kind of counter matchup play. Vulcan was sometimes picked along with outs like Ra, Scylla, who can get that kind of instant damage out there with an ultimate to maybe counter the Raijin. He goes up and Taiko drums, he moves pretty slow, easy target. Maybe some mentality there, but I mean, what else does the Vulcan offer to this Camelot Kings team in the mid lane? Is it a pick that he's able to at least decently farm up well into the late game, scales really, really hard? Or, I mean, like, what's kind of this path for the Vulcan through this game?
Well, the highlight of Vulcan is probably the best objective mage in the game. Additional damage is basically like having 2 hunters along with your mage because of Vulcan turret. And then he's got incredible secure with meatball and ult and 1. So really good secure on around objectives. He also should farm up pretty well. He's got pretty low cooldowns. Also has the ability to have turret tank stuff for him. So it should be a pretty easy farm game for him. It's just late game, mid game, when it comes to getting dove, is he going to be able to live? If he's ahead, yes. And if they're having a good game and he's farming up well, yes. If he's behind or even at least, there's a good chance that he's going to be dying in a lot of these fights.
So what I'm hearing is that probably Oathhh on this rat might just want to be having a little bit of a feast over here in the mid lane, try and sit on this Vulcan as much as he can because the Eldritch Hounds, they need to see if they can bring this one back and tie things up, or the Camelot Kings go up 2-0. Let's jump right in to game number 2.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Inbound. We'll find out what happens here in game 2. It's Gorr, it's Trelly, and of course it's going to be Doug as we watch one that I'm really excited for. First off, you get some change-ups, Trelly. I think that are going to be very helpful for the Hounds, right? Oathhh on something that can get a little more hands-on, a lot quicker. Stu and Neil changing up their god picks, though for better or for worse, honestly, maybe TBD. But if I'm being completely honest, and chat maybe as excited as I am, or at least 55% of them, I am super pumped to watch BigManTingz on Vulcan and to watch Jarcorrr on Cupid. It just seems like those two... Admittedly, one of them could be very bullied this game, but could also be some really fun plays. Pog plays. I'm going to call them what it is. My brain wanted to say poggers.
All right, well, which one do you think gets bullied more? Would you say it's the Cupid or the Vulcan?
Probably Vulcan.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the Vulcan has a rougher time just because, you know, Yark can stay in his own lane, away from everyone else, get his little hearts, heal up, have a good time, whereas Tingz is always going to be in range of a rattle. Backfire is not going to get you away from Taiko drums. I mean, NeilMah, his dashes are able to follow that as well, so I think there's just a lot of CC here from the Eldritch Hounds that could definitely connect onto a Vulcan. But as Inbound highlighted, breastplate very easy for something like a Vulcan to pick up. So maybe he's a little tanky, maybe he plays safe. We'll see where we go from there. I tend to like a composition like this, though, from the Camelot Kings. They've got easy setup. CaptainTwig does get his Lancelot back. And you've got great objective burn and burst, something that has been lacking for some of these mid laners, right? There's not too much. I think we saw Ven play like cuckoo yesterday, but besides that, big burst damage has not been something that the meta has been favoring too much.
And Quig back on this Athena. Talk about a playmaker last game. Oh, man. He was everywhere you needed. And sometimes, well, I guess if you were the Hounds, he was everywhere you just didn't want him to be. The only time that it really got punished, it feels like, was on that left side Phoenix. A small jump in, but he had Magi's on the other side for Neil that really just kind of ate the taunt, and then Quig got blown up. And that was the one time we saw it, and other than that, it was blink taunt constantly, and it just caused a lot of trouble. Speaking of causing trouble, Tingz, half health already getting jumped in on it. BennyQ, Oathhh combine their damage, an early first blood this time, 1.5 minutes in. And Twig may be happy that he's able to get out of there.
Yeah, this is kind of what we were talking about already. The range, the escape potential, and even the damage potential of BigManTingz has been exploited here. Ducky needs to connect with 2, won't be able to. But you lose the beads. And you got to think going towards tower would have been the better call, but I guess Tingz realized the escape was already covered, the option was there, and you lose your beats, and you give first blood over to BennyQ, who should be bullying you pretty much all game. As far as matchups go, Vulcan does not love going into Raijin for obvious reasons. You just have a free Raiju target with that turret. Anytime BennyQ wants to close gap, he can just Thunder Crash in and say, hey, I'm going to do more damage than you. I'm ahead at this very moment. So that means BigManTingz is going to have to play extremely safe. And not even safe. Everyone tries to play safe, but I think you're going to have to forfeit farm because you're in fear of dying, right? And that's a difference maker. That's not playing safe at times. That's just playing scared. And sometimes you have to. Without your beads, without damage, without your Book of Thoth. Yeah, BigManTingz is going to have some trouble stepping up to mid camps.
Something that we could see, like you said, in the late game, you've got the burst, right? That's kind of your whole thing. That's what Vulcan's about. We're not near the late game for a little while. So Tings is, going to be maybe threatened, struggling, scared, as you had said, of the Raijin Ratatoskr combo. Neil is just going to play as annoying as he possibly can, which, again, that's a compliment for supports, but he's not going to be successful. This time around, again, last game, we saw a ton of buff invades. Oathhh shows up just a little bit late. I think Tings actually pulled both red and speed.
But he's going to get one.
Well, you would think.
Oh, he's going to back.
But he's backing
for it. I guess at this point, if you get caught, I would assume Oathhh did the math, and he's like, I'm not getting my ult from this speed buff, and if I get caught, I'm going to die, so I might as well back up. Tings does get both speed buffs, but hey, at least CaptainTwig's nearby for one of them. That's going to be a good help. Oathhh has been pretty on point with trying to be near these speed buffs early on. But Tings learned that, right? He watched it last game. He said, wait, you stole both speeds? Okay, I'll be on time to my buffs this time. And just make sure you can't do that. Still, CaptainTwig was able to be with Variety. They invade the blue buff, take that one away from Ducky. And is able to get the XP for his own speed zone. That's going to be a net negative for the Eldritch Hounds, at least for now. Seems like there was an ult attempt on BigManTingz. Even with the beads down, couldn't find a kill.
And those beads coming back up now, so all of a sudden, conversation, at least the window of opportunity closes, but not fully because it's still a Vulcan. There's the window of opportunity of, can you kill Vulcan? That one's going to permeate this game. Admittedly, until late, and that's really the question is going to be the front line. How much space can they create for Jarcorrr and for Tings? Ducky maybe playing a little too aggressive here in a 1v2 and now a 1v3. Quig and Twig come over to Variety's lane and help him out. Neil is going to pick up one match over on left and finding Jarcorrr. So solo for carry. And the Hounds still have the kill lead, technically 2-1.
Wow, that was even one more auto attack might have gotten Yaga kill. Thinking he didn't beads. Maybe he just knew he was dead and Neil happened to tank too much. Wonder if that beats could have stalled long enough to net himself a kill, but it did not seem to me like Ducky was out of position, and I don't think anyone would have really thought that. BennyQ comes over the wall, but with the help from Oathhh, shouldn't be in too much danger. Just barely ticked, but is actually trying to go in.
Yeah, clipped him. Now they've got the lockdown. Oh my god, Twig! A pillar even from Neil just to lock him down. I thought BennyQ was the one who was in trouble after the ult from Tings clips the edge. But no, his health was more than enough. And while Quig probably can't do anything here, I do want to see, specifically because you were questioning it, what Neil was doing, and more so, I guess, where Jarcorr's damage was, because you had 3 people on you.
Close, yeah, there's no way I'm beads in there. You know what, I think Neil just tanks it up. The beads would not have saved him. I respect that call. At that point, there's just so much damage coming your way underneath the tower. Probably smart just to accept your death willingly, and unfortunate that Neil is able to survive with such low margins. But BennyQ, I mean, dashes over the wall fearlessly. Yes, loses the beads, but is able to immediately go into the taiko drums and say, yeah, I don't really care. That was the only damage that Tings was going to provide this fight. Pretty confident about that. Now that the ult's down, I'm going to continue to fight, and it ends up working out. I do think that because of this pickup that I see from Yaga, he goes for the chalice. There's not much fighting that wants to happen. Stun for Quig. Can the autos connect? Does not seem like it. But defensive, right? The Camelot Kings were not trying to turn that into a wand fight. They're playing so far back, and there's a reason. XP, very much in favor of the Eldritch Hounds over in that lane. Just everywhere, really. The Eldritch Hounds are bullying. Look at them. Is there any fear in their eyes? I'm not seeing it.
No, if it is, like you said, it is very, very well hidden. BennyQ took an ult once again from Tings' low ult, so it didn't quite get a lot of damage. He's sitting at half health, but does not seem to be too worried. Again, that Vamp Shroud, something, Charlie, you know, I didn't even touch on it. I think he went for it last game as well.
Yep.
We don't see Vampiric Shroud too often, and admittedly, it's not the most health back in the world, but he's sustaining himself on these waves, and that's giving him some staying power. Unfortunately for Jarcorrr, and now for maybe BennyQ, that staying power is not enough, and that is going to be a jump on one side to get a kill. And unfortunately for the Hounds on the other, they weren't able to get the full chase down on the Cupid. And so it is a 1-0 trade, and BennyQ showcasing maybe that Vampiric Shroud, while helpful, is not the end-all be-all.
Yeah, I can tell you. I gotta hold on and see if Variety's able to get away here. He is. I thought maybe he tried to get away and the stun could have connected. But as a mid laner myself, we yearn for the Bancroft's Talon, right? It's such a bad item in the sense of it doesn't give you any meaningful stats besides just power and lifesteal, which means if you're not a Anubis, you're probably not building it. But if you're able to get Typhon's Fang and the Vampiric Shroud, you can kind of get away with just building lifesteal, right? That's what BennyQ went last game. He did plenty of damage. Unfortunately, was the target of a lot of CC, so it didn't quite work out. But point being, everyone wants to build Bancrofts, but there was no Bancrofts with stats. Now, Typhon's gives you 20% pen, and it procs off of your Sacrificial Shroud late game, which means you're going to get that extra lifesteal anyway. So, something that BennyQ has the option to build into, makes him a bit tankier if he wants to go Blood-Soaked later on. But extra damage, lifesteal, healing. Because if you've ever been a mid laner trying to solo your own mid camps or red buff, you get half health, and it's not a fun time.
Fields of Love dropped onto Oathhh. Oathhh up into the sky. Jarcorr's low, and the Heart Bomb explodes. It leaves Oathhh in an awkward spot, and with Quig coming in, yeah, the rat says, no thanks, and just goes ahead and backs away. There's a lot of energy between these two teams. At least this game, there's been a lot more scraps. We waited 8 minutes for First Blood last time. We've got 5 kills, 9 minutes in now, but some fights like that just kind of fizzle out before they can really truly happen, where it's just, okay, I poke you, you poke me. Oh, actually, never mind, I don't want this anymore. And both parties get to go their separate ways.
Just a bit of a damage check. I see this a lot where you know you're safe. Jarcorrr knows he's got, hey, I've got Health Chalice, I've got Hearts, I've got plenty of just sustain built into my kit. If I see Oathhh come by, I'll do a bit of a damage check, drop my ultimate, get a Heart Bomb off, but there's no chase down potential, right? You're not looking to really fight. You're trying to stay underneath the tower at full HP, and so far Jarcorrr has been able to do that because of the vision provided for him by his teammates and his own ward coverage, so not too much fear in his eyes. I think Oathhh might have went in if Quig didn't channel the ultimate. Gotta give more props to Quig, man. I mean, this Athena, I'm not going to say plays herself. She is top of the meta for a reason. But knowing when to ult in, knowing when to find a taunt is not always easy. And I think Quig has been very on point with these Defender of Olympus. Just when you know your teammates are getting dove, you know your team needs a little bit of extra stats to try and survive. Quig has always been there, you know, to try and help out. And so far, it's been working pretty well. Only 2 deaths for the Camelot Kings, whereas the Eldritch Hounds have their 3 kills. And as you said, pretty much even. Well, you see a bit of a differential over in dual aim, but I don't think Jarcorrr is hating himself too much for it. He just wants to get items online, but a little bit of pressure towards the Quig and his dash taunt. Maybe he's in trouble.
And they pull the taunt, like you said. A lot of damage on Oathhh. Oh my god, the turnaround. Stuart finds some massive stuns, but the chase is now on to the carry. Quig coming in with the ults. Juice getting some good autos onto Twig, but that is not enough on his own. And that gets turned. Taunt back up, pulls Neil in. You've got low health bars. Twig, Variety, Quig all have to back away. Jarcorrr wants the fight. Deep shot, but a wide one at that from Tingz. Unfortunately, Neil goes right. Tingz aims left. They only find 2 kills. Oh no, Trelly. Just the 2. But 2 kills nonetheless for the Kings. And a lot of control.
Wow, maybe a 1v1 attempt here. BennyQ has to watch out for the meatball. That could start to add up. Tycho Drums, not going to net a kill, but is anyone nearby? BennyQ might try to dive this, though. Tingz didn't already use the Aegis. One more shot. He's going to get it. Wow, Tingz, I can't believe, actually died there. I thought the Aegis for the Tycho Drums was enough. That's Chrono's pendant for you. BennyQ gets the solo kill through relics.
And you know what? Honestly, I'm surprised he's not up shouting about it. Like, I'd be feeling great if I were in his shoes. That is a good return kill. I mean, that fight is vastly loss for your team. And that is a massive kill. I mean, to kill Tingz and get both relics, like you said, I'd be way happier about that. And I'm now looking for the next few minutes. What can they do with those relics? And the question really is, you know, you've got this big burst on one side. You don't really have the burn, it feels like, on the Hounds that we've seen in the past. So Gold Fury maybe not on the table. Beacon doesn't seem to be on the table. Is there much that you can really get done now that now that Tingz is in this kind of position?
I think Tingz probably just has to play back, right? He was overconfident. You got to remember, no matter how good you are, you're still on Vulcan, which is definitely a shot at Vulcan and not on BigManTingz. You don't have that much ability to juke around. You don't have that much movement. It's backfire, and you've got 10% CDR. Good luck juking the rest, right? So BennyQ just said, hey, my character is better than yours right now. I have more damage than you. I saw you wide left and ultimate towards the support, so there's no way that you're going to use that to fight me. I think the one option they had is to try and fight here, and it looks like Jarcorrr is getting a little low.
He's going to get knocked up, taken down by Oathhh, but the taunt is good. Stu trades his life out carry for carry. Oathhh chases forward, going for Twig, has him low, needs the stun, finds it, and with a great pillar, great lockdown from Oathhh, finds himself a double kill. Damage in the mid lane, trade between the two mages. BennyQ has to retreat from that one. Good ult and good lockdown from Tingz. Make sure to keep him on his toes, but it is a 2-for-1 trade. The Hound's coming out on top.
Yeah, you gotta love every time these fights start, you think, oh man, it's a little bit mismatched, but here comes the ult from Quig, here comes the ult in from Oathhh, ends up a 3v3 almost every single time. And if it wasn't BennyQ and Tingz fighting each other in the jungle, might have been a 4v4, right? The mid laner is probably trying to rotate into that fight as well. CaptainTwig, I got to imagine he was pretty close to being able to hop on the horse or do something. Not enough CDR so far, just the Jotuns. Maybe a little bit more is the difference maker there. Neil taunted back, but not enough DPS. And Tingz already used the ultimate on a BennyQ, so there won't be any sort of scrap there. But all the objectives are still available, Gore. I mean, Gold Fury, Pyromancer are up. You've got decent objective shred if you're Tingz, because you just dropped that turret, but as you said, it's not like Oathhh and BennyQ are going to cook through it very easily. You need Stuart, you need those shotgun auto attacks that are just not present at the moment. Duo lane has been just that. That's what I'm talking about, though. CaptainTwig is going to go in and try and play zone duty at the ult on a BennyQ, but he's got to leave.
Has to fall back, but Pyromancer's low. Oathhh in the air. Pyromancer confirmed thanks to Tingz' ult. Fight afterward is determined by Oathhh, who goes in deep. He wants Tingz, the rest of the team wants Quig. Chases on for the rat, pulls out the Aegis, falls back from the mid lane. But you've got a lot of players nearby. Crash forward from BennyQ. Damage is there. Tank up from Neil.
Oh.
Great jukes from Tingz, but it only keeps him alive for so long. Now Quig's coming in onto Variety. You'd think they'd want to fight this with the way they're playing, the way they're positioning. Neil, Benny, Oathhh, low, Jarcorrr, just outside the mid lane. On the left. Trelly, they get far enough away so that you get to come in, you trade a neutral objective for Tingz' life. And the Hounds have the kill lead, but gold, about 1,200 over towards the Kings. Experience now, finally, despite what we were talking about earlier this game, in their favor as well.
Now you're okay with that one. Unfortunately, once again, Tingz loses both relics. That's the part that really sucks, is that you get both relics down and you still die. How many times have we seen that from this Vulcan? I'm pretty sure 3. I'm pretty sure all 3 of his deaths have been double relic and to try to survive. Definitely 2. Actually, one of them might have just been the beads. Point being, not only does BennyQ have the damage to chase down a Vulcan, Oathhh does as well, if given enough resets. And I'm pretty sure Ducky was trying to dive as well. Taunt on to BennyQ, not going to find much, and actually Quig is going to take a good bit of damage here. But once again, it's CaptainTwig, who is here, is going in for the damage.
Well, you've got Aegis now used by BennyQ, who's got him just under the Tier 1 tower. He's going to be fine to retreat. It seems pretty healthy. Well, at least healthy enough to get back to base, although he hasn't channeled his back. Had to cancel it, healing up thanks to NeilMah, but not nearly enough. Has the breastplate online to help give him some frost, but the Tier 1 tower in mid taken down on the Hound side of the map. Now aggression is on. Tingz firing shots towards Neil. Ult used by the Terra. Going to give some, again, sustenance necessary for the Hounds to keep them going. Jelly, that one fizzles out, but the tower makes the big difference for the Kings. Pressure on the map, as well as the objectives going in their way, means that the gold lead slowly but steadily growing in their favor. Variety in a fight for a blue buff wins the blue buff. Might lose his life up into the somersault cloud. Oathhh no ult, and I think that might be it. Oathh's blink actually going to come up here. Bird form, never mind, it's Wukong.
Yeah, Variety's got blink as well. If Oathhh does go for a lazy back, try and chase him down, Variety could just blink it, and wouldn't be a great call, but here comes the pull from the Camelot Kings. All the while, it beats off of BennyQ. That should be the only win they're really looking for. I was going to say 50-50 and after that seems a bit sketchy. So you just take the beads down and call that a win for now. But now anytime Quig's nearby, BennyQ has to watch out. Thunder Crash is not going to get you out of trouble quickly enough. You're going to get caught by that taunt. And if Tingz is nearby, or in this case even CaptainTwig, a lot of resources either A, cancel it again, or just cripple you entirely. You're not going to be able to escape there. BennyQ has to stand around corners and be safe.
Well, ult for ult trade, Stu and Jarcorrr, but Neil's over here. Unfortunately, it's still just Neil, right? It's only going to be a little bit of damage from the Terra.
Oh,
and instead
man.
Pressure with the minion wave.
It's just Neil.
It's just Neil.
It's just Terra sounds better, man. It's just
Yeah,
Neil
you're right.
makes me feel bad.
You're right. It's just Terra, so it's not going to be a lot of damage.
You're right. He's not building damage either. Oh my goodness.
Benny has to play things a little safe. I can't believe he makes it out of there. Felt like he was one hit. Lucky for him, he's going to stay alive. Unfortunately for him, the Kings have something maybe a little bit bigger, more sustainable in their mind, and they will go for it, grab it, and go. Gold Fury over towards the Kings. This gold lead now it's going to get chipped a little bit thanks to this tier 1 tower from Ducky. Taking him a year to get, but he's going to pick it up. And it is still a massive lead, though. 4,000 and then some for the Kings.
Grabbing the tower helps, but Ducky hasn't been able to make those impactful rotations just yet. Has been a part of one kill and died once, so not so much from the Hercules so far. Pyromancer's still available. Those runic bombs can start to be very impactful, especially if you're the Eldritch Hounds. To me, it's a little bit more impactful to the Eldritch Hounds, whereas you got Tingz, right? He's going to be your burst damage. It's going to be okay. You can count on the Earthshaker. But are you going to be counting on, what, BennyQ damage and ults from Oathhh and ult from Ducky? Not particularly. You would prefer to have that runic bomb and try and contest that burst towards Fire Giant, towards Fury, etc. So sticking around, getting ward coverage, making sure you know exactly when this Pyromancer is being pulled would be nice. Variety's been on point, though. So far, stealing away these blue buffs, even with Oathhh making those rotations. And another thing, remember how much we leaned on Jarcorrr being down 2 levels, 3 levels?
Yeah.
He's been able to find a level lead over Stuart with, of course, objectives helping. Yes, the Gold Furies have been in favor of the Camelot Kings, but every time a gank has come this way, I mean, not for a lack of trying, Oathhh has been in duo lane. It's quick. He's ulting over. He's helping Jarcorrr. He's making sure he doesn't fall down. So far, wasn't a problem. Now, Yark's got a level lead over Stuart, which is just by better farm and sticking around in lane.
Now Pyromancer, that ever-present threat, and mainly because of the turret, right? You got a lot of damage that can come out from Tingz, as exemplified here. Oh my god, the Pyromancer burned from 100 to 25 real fast, and then from 25 to 0 just as quickly as the Kings rotate in, pick that one up. And Trelly, it's a scoop up, runic bomb over to Quig. And now in an awkward spot if you're the Hounds. A really good early game. The mid game now shimmying into the late game for him. Just has not been able to coalesce the way you would have expected. Oathhh 3-1, 3-2, 1, and 2 for BennyQ. Did not go for his lifesteal this time around. Does go for the breastplate in mid. Maybe for some survivability and some cooldown. Oathhh in a 1v2. Made 2v2 thanks to Neil. He's low. Oathhh up into the sky. And he's looking for the jumps. He's trying to find the leap. Shield is good, but the disengage a little bit better. Instead, Quig, sacrificial lamb. Unless he can get his ult out in time, and he does just barely make it. A heavy investment from the Hounds, but it clears out the right side of the map, and that might have been the main goal. Fire Giant is going to get started up, but it is a hesitant start from the Hounds.
Yeah, I like that call. The second that Variety is nearby, you got to give up, because where's BigManTingz? That's what everyone's thinking, right? Hold on. There's a Vulcan that could easily outburst us from anywhere nearby this Fire Giant. We have no vision on where Tingz is, and of course Variety, he's not going to go away easily. He's going to be up in the somersault cloud, stall for a solid 15 seconds or so, just juking around with the tiger stuns, things like that. No reason to go in for that toss-up. Just take the small win in forcing that ultimate and get out. Quig, extremely tanky, by the way. The Mail of Renewal, the upgraded breastplate, as well as just the mitigations you're going to get for channeling that ability, made sure that he was fine, helping out CaptainTwig as well. Who did have to use the blink, but I think you're okay with that one. The horse wasn't going to be a guaranteed get-out-of-jail-free card. But Oni Fury and Fire Giant are the objectives I'm looking at. Jarcorrr has hit level 20. Stu's close, but not quite hitting that threshold. I don't want to see him in left lane anymore. I mean, take Chester, take purple buff, and go over towards Fire Giant. You know that Ishtar is going to be on the left side of the map for a good while now. At this point, you could even give up the Oni Fury. The Camelot Kings have such a good position towards the right side of the map, but it seems like they're still just sitting over on left.
Well, Jarcorr's got to save that tier 1 as much as he can. Taunt onto Ducky from Quig, good. It's just going to get retaliated. Beacon spawned in. This one's going to spawn the Titans. Jelly, I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen the Titan spawn without like a Fire Giant somewhere in the equation. A lot of these teams lately, that like 19 to 21 minutes in window has been a really prime opportunity for Fire Giant. Instead, Beacon captured. Titans in about 30 seconds are going to be running straight down mid. And there was a feint towards the Fury with, at this point, you would think enough damage, but instead, small resets. Both teams a little timid to pull these objectives and really stick to them.
Yeah, that's what I'm surprised about. I really do think the Camelot Kings have ease of execution. Of course, BigManTingz was not at the first Oni Fury attempt, so I can see why that one didn't start up. But if Jarcorrr goes back left, I was going to say, if this man goes back to duo lane, I think they are actively misplaying their lead. The Camelot Kings finally are going to head over towards the Fire Giant, where they have easy execution on trying to go in for a pull at the very least. And even so, even if Oathh's going to go to the skies, it's pretty easy to predict where he's going to land. You can just pre-drop the Earthshaker. BigManTingz has gotten through the awkward phase of playing Vulcan, where early game you just have no sort of cooldown, you can't get out of trouble. Now, you got plenty of CDR, you got a good bit of damage to threaten the dive from Oathhh, from BennyQ, and you've got a good bit of movement. And the Camelot Kings are in a commanding position. Deal with this Titan, push down tier 2, or look towards the Fire Giant. The world is your oyster, as far as I'm concerned.
Damage. I have not seen the Chaos Titan shredded that quickly in a while. And that's one of the things, you know, at least for me, Trelly, I sometimes forget how much damage Cupid can do when you get him to late game. Especially level 20, you've got the attack speed buff built in, which is something that's pretty easy to forget about since it's just passive, something that you gain. And of course with the build that Hark has, that opens up the world to him. And between his damage and Tingz' damage, and of course no hounds in sight, that might have made one of the fastest and easiest Fire Giants we've gotten to see in a while.
Yep, that's what that turret, that's what that shred will provide. Camelot Kings grab it for free, tier 2 tower. It's also looking relatively free here. CaptainTwig making use of the shielding the horse provides. The other towns aren't giving this one up for free. Ducky walked up as it died for what reason exactly? Just to lose a good portion of his HP, thanks to the taunt in from Quig. I'm baffled. I mean, he probably should have died. What? Defending a tower that's already dead seems a bit questionable, but hey, he didn't have to use that much, right? He didn't use his beads, just threw a boulder and said, hey, I'll take 2 ults for mine, and I'm going to get out of here for free.
I was lucky.
Very lucky.
That Tingz missed, and that the damage, like, I feel like Fields of Love ended just in time for him to avoid what would have been otherwise, I have to imagine, a pretty painful death in that circumstance. But like you said, instead it's a small reset. He gets his beads back. Boulder will be back in no time. Tier 2 is the only tower left standing. Tier 2 in mid, that is, for the Hounds. Meanwhile, the Kings have only lost the Tier 1 in right. They've got 5 permanent objectives still on their map. And that is, if you're the Hounds, a lot of money that is just laying there, not getting utilized. But also, a hell of a thing to have to break through, Trelly. When you're on the back foot already, you need to win a fight and then some if you want to try to find an equal game state.
Tier 2 in mid still available, though. Camelot Kings have this Fire Giant buff for a bit. I think if they're all together, they certainly can, but are you in a position where you even want to? Tier 2, not worth dying over because it turns into a Phoenix real quick. Do you feel confident to defend your Phoenix? You should. Jarcorr's a shield buff. Ducky's still over on the right side of the map. This doesn't look like it's going to turn into a mid-Phoenix siege anytime soon. If anything, left Phoenix. The real question is, how do the Camelot Kings opt to play this? I think sending Variety and Twig down mid is the best call because CaptainTwig's got a runic bomb. So you got the 3-2 split, but so far, with Ducky being in right, maybe the Camelot Kings just try and W key up left. They have a little bit of time to do so. Not easy, though. Even with the blink taunt, There is CC that's going to come through. Let's see, they've got the damage for Neil. It's close, but he might live.
He has enough mobility as of right now. The sustain from Terra gets him out of there. Now it's going to be the pushback. Phoenix still there. Oathhh crashed down. Half health bars for several Kings as they fall back. Twig main target. Variety chasing deep into the Titan room. Still unable to get the kill. Stuart makes it back to the fountain. Oathh still alive. They lose left Phoenix. You maintain a runic bomb. Relics on both sides thrown out. Ults thrown out. Trelli, all 10 live to see the next fight. It's going to be a Primal Fury on the retreat for the Kings. They've still got about a minute with this Fire Giant before it fully wears off. But it looks like it's going to be a left side Phoenix and reset.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. If you think about it, Quig was hiding at green buff, pulls the Magi's off of NeilMah immediately, right? Goes over to left, gets the dash taunt in, Heart Bomb, BigManTingz damage with the ultimate, all connect. NeilMah still gets to live through it, and that was all just from the get-go. Hey, we're going to pull that Magi, and we're going to find another taunt, and we're going to put all of our DPS into this Terra. Doesn't really get a kill, but what it does do is force NeilMah back. Variety does a great job of zoning, and then that left Phoenix goes down for free. And, you know, my plan was, hey, you know, you send Variety and you send CaptainTwig, they use the Runic Bomb, they get a mid-Phoenix, or at least get some pressure. This works out better, right? You get the left bird down. Someone's going to have to worry about defending, probably Ducky in this case because he has that teleport. But Fire Giant's going to spawn back in here shortly, and when it does, Camelot Kings can go in for another pull, or maybe just group up and try and find a fight. It seems like that's what they're after, right? Variety and CaptainTwig have this aggressive positioning. They might be wrapping around. Do they look for a fight in mid, or are they just trying to drop a Runic Bomb on a Phoenix? I think they're trying to see who's going to walk forward.
Well, with a little bit of help from Stu.
Oh, it's Ducky.
They push that tier 1 down over on left, so another little tower in favor of the Hounds. Unfortunately, even sans Fire Giant, the Kings are feeling pretty confident about this. Step up to right side Phoenix. They go in. Quig with the blink, leaves the trail of flames behind him. Is unable to find anything else other than about half his health bar. Goes the other way. Variety goes in the side, and again, eats about half his health bar before the Somersault Cloud gets him out of there. Stun from Neil, a little too late. Not going to connect. Stun from Oathhh, good on to Twig. Does he have the chase down? Does he go up to the ult? And what is he looking for? Forces out the jousting fields. Twig is going to be able to walk away, or I guess mount it up and ride away. Fire Giant comes in. 29-20 right now, Charlie. I'm starting to think we might be in for an enhanced Fire Giant dance.
I'd say so. The Camelot Kings are playing this right. They're going to stall this one out. Not because enhanced Fire Giant, but more so because there's fire minions over on left that the Eldritch Hounds are going to have to deal with eventually. A lot of ults used, though. BigManTingz is not going to have that confirmation if they pull immediately, which they are going for. You'd think they'd wait a little bit longer, but look at this. Ducky and Oathhh are sieging forward. The Eldritch Hounds know they have to fight in the next couple of seconds, or else that base is going to start to get real bad thanks to those fire minions.
Well, they back up. It looks like Ducky is channeling his back. So did Oathhh. Ducky to deal with the minions. Neil, taunted, uses his Magi's. And the Kings are on the front foot. Quig seems a little bit late to the party, actually, in the separation, but there's going to be a jump down. NeilMah might not live through this one. No, he's just too tanky, and he manages to walk out of that. BennyQ is still alive, had to use the Aegis. And it's a separation again. Relic Graveyard on the right-hand side. Just the beads for BennyQ alive. Neil finally goes down. Oathhh double knockup, but does he have the follow-up and the help that is necessary? So far, the answer is yes, but it's Twig with a double kill, and Twig, who is chasing for a little bit more. Tings takes away the triple. Jarcorrr finds the fourth, and it is last man standing for the Ratatoskr, the chase down from Quig. But the Kings have a bigger target in sight. They're going to run over towards left, run down mid, where they've got the minion wave. Charlie, they're going to look for this Phoenix, and as long as Oathhh can't back, which he cannot, Quig will come in, help his team, and the Kings will find themselves up 2-0.
I love that play from Quig as well. Stall Oathhh for as long as possible so that he can retreat, and then the second you know he's not going anywhere, channel that Defender of Olympus and group up. Man, Camelot Kings looking real clean this time around. They got that Phoenix down. They immediately retreat. They don't overstay their welcome. They don't try their luck with a mid-Phoenix with a Runic Bomb. They say, hey, we have not only the lead, we've got the damage, we've got the burst, we have the map state. let's just go towards EFG, or I guess regular Fire Giant at this
Yeah.
point, and play it as slow as possible. Eventually, the Hounds will overcommit, they'll make a mistake, and we can capitalize on it.
And I was thinking it was actually, well, at first a great scenario for the Hounds. They just pushed up the minions. They were over near the tier 1 tower and left. Wide open field, it feels like. Okay, let's get aggressive. Let's get in the fight. Then, like you said, the Kings just kind of say, cool, we're not going to. Sucks for you.
Yep.
Wait until the minions are over at there. And very conveniently, Oathhh and Ducky back. And
back.
suddenly they were like, yo, wait, let's take this fight. They burst forward. Unfortunately for Neil, they burst him. He goes down as then the rest of the Hounds follow into the ground. And now a 2-0 lead for the Kings. We'll see if they can close it out or if the Hounds will finally push back right after this.
You can never sleep in traffic. 'Cause living steady panic. I know 'cause I try acid. Now I see through your habits. Just like gadgets. You tell me with the 2 hands, I'm too bad. Wonder what you think's I like. Need me to get your bills paid. That's what you said. I guess I'm just too fake for that. So sit down, listen, think for a minute. Know it might be hard 'cause you're uneducated. Break down, face it, breathe for a minute. I'm
Camelot Kings now on match point with a win here in game number 2 over the Eldritch Hounds to get them 1 game away from being able to close this one out. It's JMac inbound here to help me break this one down. Inbound, this one started out looking promising, at least for the Eldritch Hounds. The dive on the BMT, tried to shut down the Vulcan early, dives towards Jarcorrr, tried to knock this Cupid down. Started really strong for the Eldritch Hounds, and they were getting lots of kills through these games. But then they start showing back for these same styles of plays. So, okay, we got BMT one time. Let's try it again. Oh, we got Yark. That worked the first time. But it didn't start working out as soon as Quig really got online. Once this Athena's kind of kicking around, once CaptainTwig's rotating through, the Camelot Kings are just rolling right through this comp.
Yeah, I think the Hounds from Game 1, Game 2 kind of had the same problem the Glads had Games 2, 3, 4, where they're fighting fine. The way the team fights are working, 3v3s, 2v2s are working, ganks are working. But then it comes to objectives. It comes down to being able to get something after the kill, the stuff after the stuff. That's been said since SMITE originally started. You need stuff after the stuff or you're not going to be able to take these leads. Kills are 4-3. This game is super close at this point, but slowly but surely the Kings are working their way through their macro and getting leads that way. The Hounds were fighting fine, but they need to get their farm game going.
Yeah, it's felt like every time we look up, sure, Hounds have those kills, but they're just not getting anything beyond there. And maybe some of that, I'm not going to say that's, maybe attributed to why we don't see as much fighting early game, but typically when we do see teams that are able to get 5, 6, 7 kills in the early, their lead really doesn't balloon out of control too much because there's no goal fear by that point. There's no Pyromancer to go towards. At best, maybe you get a buff steal, which we have been seeing. Some buff steals by Oathhh has been able to walk up, take a couple of these camps away multiple times, but haven't really been able to see just kind of that full 5v5 grouping of the Eldritch Hounds that we were really, I would say, a bit more akin to what that team's identity used to be. It was okay, we're fine in our lanes. We can kind of play through duo a bit, but once we get to the late game, our team fight stage was really strong, formerly on the Hounds. Not quite seeing that here just yet with this new duo lane.
Yeah, and I think some of it does come down to Stu and Benny aren't playing this backline togetherness very well. But I also think this Kings comp has kind of been exploiting that and kind of making it difficult. I think this Athena needs to go. I don't think
100%
Quig can be playing this Athena again. The dash taunt reliability against this Hounds comp makes it so they always have to be ready for that engage. Beyond that, I think this Hounds comp is really, I mean, it is an easy comp to play, but it's not easy to play against this Athena, and that's why I think starting with this Athena, we can talk about our own comp after, but this Athena cannot be something we play against. Maybe even taking first side, taking the Athena away, I'm fine with that. It doesn't have to be a ban, but Athena cannot be in Quig's hands again.
Yeah, I think maybe that's part of why we do see the Hounds taking this first pick spot, maybe see if they can grab the Athena for themselves. But Camelot Kings, a wise team, probably want to ban that one away, not give NeilMah a chance to have that same level of performance. We'll see if that Athena makes it through here. The picks and bans for game number 3 between the Hounds and the Kings. As mentioned, Hounds now on that first pick slot. 100% agree with you that Athena can't make it through, but it's the Eldritch Hounds, even in first pick, banning it away, which I guess to me says that they don't necessarily want to grab it away ahead of time. I think there's maybe something more valuable for them, something that they put more prio towards than the Athena.
Yeah, but it's still strange that your first ban is this Athena, especially when you have a roster change. Athena's a very simple way to start playing SMITE, and it makes it so even if Benny and Stu are not playing great SMITE in the backline together, how easy is it to play around dash taunt? This is the guy we're hitting. Stu can follow up, Benny can follow up. Makes it a lot easier. A little weird to see that thrown away by the Hounds, but like you said, maybe there is something that sticks out to them as the end-all, be-all. Chernobog, I mean, there could have been Amma banned now. Wukong also banned by the Hounds, which Variety also played very well on. Game 1, Game 2, Variety played very well on this. Wukong, I like this as a throwaway ban. If the bans were Wukong first, Athena second, I think it makes a little bit more sense. Seeing the Athena thrown away right away, just maybe the off chance the Kings look to ban it. But either way, the picks and bans happening as expected. Chernobog also gone, leaving the Hounds and the Kings with one more ban apiece.
Where we do see the remainder of those bans go. Again, up until really this set, the Lancelot has been banned away. We got left open for game 2. Camelot Kings picked that up second. Really show why CaptainTwig still got it going on, at least with that Lancelot. Has a great performance on it. Not sure if at this point, though, that's the ban that you allocate towards. I do think that this Baba Yaga, probably the better ban. The more consistent one. at least as far as I'm concerned. While CaptainTwig has had really good Lancelot games, it's usually what's built around the Lancelot that's allowed him to be able to kind of exploit the strengths of that god. So I like seeing this Baba Yaga ban. Also shows that while they think that Baba Yaga is good, maybe not necessarily something BennyQ wants to go towards immediately in that first pick slot. So along with that and the Emoja on the opposite side, what is that first pick god for the Eldritch Hounds? What do they see? It's such a strong contender for that point. Thor, the answer. Flexibility for two different players, something that both Ducky and Oathhh have had strong performances are, but not necessarily the one that I would immediately go towards as a first pick for this team.
I'd agree. I think Thor is a valuable pick. It does have that flex potential, as you highlighted. Both Oathhh and Ducky have performed very, very well in this god. But with how B's happen, it kind of just seems like all the top tier gods at this point were just banned away. And Thor just gives you a little bit of flex potential from that first side, which is always going to be strong. Kings on the opposite side, pick the Hercules. After Alma gone as kind of the best solo laner in the meta currently, the next tier is kind of like Wukong, Herc, Yorm. There's a couple other gods that are sitting in that area. Cerberus. I like the Herc pick here. Takes it away from Ducky also. I think Ducky looked fine on it. Again, it's just... he looked fine on it, but it wasn't like they need to go get this again. And I think it was more so the entire team around the Herc didn't look too great. Kings then also opt for the Lancelot, which we've said it before, we'll say it again. Lancelot is probably Twig's best god. If they can get it top 3, they should almost always be locking this in top 3.
And we'll do so along with the Hercules for the Camelot Kings. Now what's up next? The Eldritch Hounds. Do we get an answer to see if this Thor is for Oathhh? Is this one for Ducky? I have seen both of them play it to similar amounts, at least in this phase. I guess it's a good way to put it. Both players have 4 games on the pick. There's one more game if it's in Ducky's hands compared to Oathhh. So maybe we see if that one goes there, especially now that the Hercules taken away. It could be just a nice comfort pick for Ducky. But I think my second question is now, where does BennyQ go towards? Does he just snap lock the Raijin right here? It's open. Go ahead and grab that strong pick. Or is there something maybe else that you'd like to see from Benny?
The mid that sticks out most to me right now is still Set. We've not really seen it too much prio at least. We saw Paul played a lot last set, but this set for some reason we just don't see a ton of it. Sobek Ishtar opted for the Hounds. I like Sobek. It's a thing like Athena where it's very simple to know what you want to do as Sobek. Whoever I pluck, I want them to be hit. It makes this Hounds comp to have a lot easier time. They also have a good amount of CC from the Thor. And I still like this Ishtar, even though Stu didn't have maybe the greatest game ever on it. I still like it as a pick, so I'm fine taking that top 3. Kicking it over to the Camelot Kings side, their last pick before the second phase of bans. They have their jungler, they have their solo laner. They could even opt for the set here also, especially with how many mage ADCs are available. There's also the opportunity of a mage ADC or Jing Wei before it gets to that second ban phase, so that, you know, it doesn't get banned away from Jarcorrr again.
And I've seen a lot of success on Sobek so far this phase. If your name is Aurora. Haven't seen it really from too many other players just yet, so we'll see at least how NeilMah is able to pilot the Croc. Meanwhile, Camelot Kings currently hovering the Charon, which, to my knowledge, really has not been doing well for just about anybody. Will not be locked in, doesn't matter. Instead, Aphrodite. Now, a lot of times when we talk about Aphrodite as a support pick, we talk about the picks that are around it that you can link to in the late game and really become that hyper carry style. Lancelot, you kind of see him as one of those potential spots. Maybe he's not, you know, your all-critting, you know, Mercury or anything like that, or you're diving to the backline Bakasura, but is Lancelot one of those gods that Aphrodite can connect to, and you can see those two potentially running a fight together?
I don't think Aphro, for the most part, is going to be linked to the Lancelot. I don't think, like you said, he's not the all-end-all be carry that the Kings will have. I think you're usually sticking towards your ADC or your mid laner if these are your 2 jungle supports. This Aphro pick is a little strange, I think. It's not a lane that you really would want to play Aphro because she kind of wants to dominate that 2v2, and Sobek kind of gives a lot of kill potential onto her. Forces out relics really easily if he goes for the Onk or kill potential with, with horrific kill potential with Onk also. A little iffy towards it. I want to see them play something hyper carry, like you said, in the back line. Bans looking like Raijin, Serket for the Kings. Olorun set for the Hounds, so no set available in this game. Looks like Benny probably not even leaning towards it since the Hounds are the ones that opted to ban it. Next pick out for the Kings. They have ADC mid. I don't know anything that really sticks out too much. Anything that you can think of?
No, I'm looking down Benny's play column. He's played a lot of stuff so far, 11 different gods just in this phase alone. His big repeats have been things like Agni, Raijin, Kleena, Disco has popped up a few times. So still quite a few of options available to him. I look over the outside for BigManTingz. It's very similar, minus the Agni, Raijin, Baba Yaga. Set has also popped in there, so still plenty of options really for either of these two mid laners. Wouldn't be surprised if we do see the Agni. It's kind of a comfort pick for BennyQ. I think Agni has become his new age Merlin when you look back to earlier seasons of BennyQ. Got to get a traditional mage, something I could stay safe on, grab the Merlin. I think Agni has kind of fit that bill for him now here in Season 10, so we'll see if that gets dropped in. Bakasura, maybe not the expectation that I was looking at for the Eldritch Hounds, but certainly one that Oathhh has showed a lot of comfort on.
And I think that's the thing that sticks out to me. Baka doesn't strike me as a good jungler in the SPL, but Oathhh is a very good Baka, and I would not be surprised if they don't really care what Oathhh plays in this last game. They just wanted him on something he's super comfortable with, so they opt for that Bakasura. Again, I don't think he's great in the meta. I don't think his build is that great, but I would be confident having Oathhh on my team on this Baka. And then, as you said, Agni kind of Benny's go-to god, as you said. Not too surprising. Getting him on the Agni, it's something that good CC, good damage, a little bit of safety. Maybe a tough time living the dive by Lance. Beat should be forced out kind of easily since the big cripple field and no CC immunity from the Agni. But either way, I still really do like the Agni. Can get Lance off the horse sometimes too. And last pick by the Kings, going towards BigManTingz, the Morgan Le Fay. Have we really seen Big Man play too much Morgan Le Fay? I don't really think of Big Man as an often Morgan player.
So far this phase, only one time he has played it. Did manage to sneak a win on it, and at least according to our database, it showed that he had a 14 KDA on it. So
wow.
A really big pop-off game, so maybe surprising we don't see more of it if he's going to have that level of performance. But even if we kind of just go back across the history of BMT, only 3 games competitively on it. So not really a big Morgan Le Fay player, but has been a hard hitter in the games that he has gone towards it. To see him jump into it here in game number 5, is there something about the Hound's composition maybe that kind of, not necessarily forced the hands, but maybe made this Morgan Le Fay an enticing pick for him?
Really good self-peel into the Baka is the thing that sticks out to me. A lot of mages just get eaten alive, no pun intended, by Bakasura. And you really think about Morgan and what she needs to do. She's got a lot of self-peel. Now, no self-peel against Thor. She has no way to get over the wall, so if she does get hit by a big Thor wall, it's something that's going to be a little bit harder to live to, but Aphrodite should help him live a lot. Also Jing Wei, so Aphro doesn't have to look that way all too well. I think this Morgan-Aphro combo is a really strong, backline 2v2, a lot of safety, a lot of damage, and then really good chase potential from both the Aphro and the Morgan. So I think it makes a little bit more sense now that we've seen the entire comp kind of pan out.
So do you imagine that's probably kind of the Aphro pairing that we're going to see mostly once we start hitting kind of this mid-late game stride is going to be Quig attached alongside BMT, or do you think that it kind of maybe depends on the team fight where Quig kind of stays connected to?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. It's the team fight, what's happening, what are they playing around, who's got no safety. Like if Jing has no beads in a fight and Thor's walking over, Baka's walking over, I expect Jing to be the one connected to, but it really just depends on the type of fight, the type of comp that they're at with that point. If somebody gets really far ahead, even if it is Lance, if it is Hercules, that's kind of the target you just change to with Aphrodite, the one you want to be with, because that's the most important player on the map. So again, really just kind of depends on the game and where it's at.
So the Eldritch Hounds, where's kind of their win condition in this one? You look at, Thor, he's going to be sitting over in lane probably at minimum till level 12, then maybe come over for a beacon fight. Bakasura is going to be kind of roaming all across this map. What's kind of that point for the Eldritch Hounds to be able to find a win here in game 3?
I think it's the midpoint, second item for Oathhh, maybe third item for Oathhh, and then when Ducky looks to rotate over. I think you really expect the Hounds to play through duo with this comp. Sobek is not a god that's looking to go to solo lane and play around that lane. He wants to sit in duo, punish beads, stuff like that. So I expect him to start in duo and then have maybe the solo jungle also rotate to that duo, play around gold beer, stuff like that.
We'll see if the Eldritch Hounds can find that fight back here in game number 3, or are the Camelot Kings going to find themselves a sweep? Let's jump right in with the casters, Gormizer and Trelly.
That's right, the Hounds are up against the wall, Trelly, here. As we jump into it, and of course, thank you to the desk for breaking things down, setting up the field for us, and thank you to Doug for giving us the view into the battlegrounds as we jump into Game 3. Kings up 2-0. Charlie, I'm going to be honest with you.
Please do.
I zoned in on one thing. Yeah, if there's
Okay.
one thing you should be, it's honest.
Yeah.
I zoned in on the Aphrodite and the Jing very early and thought that is the most play smite at me lane that I have ever seen. It feels very passive.
Right. And that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing, right? Are you trying to play towards late game? So far, that does fit the MO for how Jarcorr's been playing, right? On the Cupid last game, he bought a chalice, just bunkered down and said, I'll see you guys at level 20. And that's pretty much what he did. He did not get very active up until that point. Throw him on a god like Jing, yeah, that's the kind of play style I expect. However, when you want to think about how easy the engage has been for the Camelot Kings, it's been dash taunt from Quig, set up, easy, you know, the team fight is won or the pick is gotten just, you know, from that dash taunt. Aphrodite does not fill that role, right? Aphrodite's a little bit different as far as I'm concerned. So it's going to be very difficult, number one, for them to kill these minions.
I think this could end up being
What just happened?
real bad for them.
How did they mess that up so bad? Did Yark miss the knockup?
Well, I'll tell you what they're missing. A lot of experience.
Quig's going back for the green buff's gone. They didn't kill Chester. Oh man, that lane may just be dead. That's
Well-
rough.
I've got good news and bad news.
Okay.
Bad news for Kings fans. Duo lane's not looking like it's off to a hot start.
Do you go get the camps now? I wonder. Can we follow them? I need to know what's about to happen.
So they're gonna go for Chester's.
And they're just gonna let Tings and Twig get it. Okay, so hey, maybe a little bit extra farm to mid jungle. You lose a little bit extra farm in duo. Man, it's such a small change, right? Where you just barely missed the knockup or whatever it was that really messed up that clear. But it puts them so much behind as far as pressure goes. It's not that they're gonna get pressure anyways, but they lost a bit of minions there. They lost some farm to tower. Level 3 is gonna be a pipe dream. It's difficult to try and step up now as the Camelot Kings.
Well, the good news is your Jing dash exactly that, right? NeilMah plucks you, you say no, and you're Aphrodite. So healing should be there. Although I'm telling, if I almost expected, I was agog, and I don't know if I would have been able to react.
If someone died.
But I genuinely thought we were about to see a death on Quig, and I did not know what to do in that. I mean, obviously call it, but like I don't know how far, how deep that goes. It could cause a lot of trouble. Variety might be in some trouble here. Double tap from Ducky, able to find its connection. Oathhh not confident in his damage just yet to jump in for the fight. And with Twig over here, maybe it changes some things, but Charlie, I was thinking that lane was going to be pretty passive to begin with.
Yep.
Now I'm very certain. In fact, it's just now Quig hits 3, just now Jarcorrr hits 3, so they're not a full level behind, but it is not a good spot to be. And admittedly, in I think most circumstances, that's not like the end of the world for the Kings. Like, they're playing for late game anyway. I think we've seen both of these games really the first 15 minutes, despite what happens, whether it's good or bad for the Hounds or the Kings.
That was
it
really
just
clean.
really shifts over towards the Kings, towards the late game team fights.
I mean, I gotta shout out Twig there. Yeah, Oathhh was like, go ahead, shoot the harpy, man. I'm gonna eat it. And Twig said, go ahead, try to eat it. The second Oathhh channels eat minion, Twig says, close your mouth, idiot, knocks him up, makes sure to confirm it, and now going in for the blue buff. It's such a low-stake steal potential, but Twig makes it happen. This time, not gonna steal the blue buff. This one goes over to Ducky. But even contesting a Bakasura this early seems like a moot point, right? It's very difficult to out-confirm eat minion. But when you got CC like Twig does, just makes a clean play to confirm. And if this purple buff gets stolen, you're in a very rough spot in this duo lane. We were talking about it already. So the hammer away. But Variety has ultimate here. Does he land the double tap? Does he even need to? The single hit. Never mind. He's just off the mark. But a rotation in from Tings.
Ducky, look, man.
What?
Ducky,
Oh, my goodness.
he dies, but Ducky just juked everything. Maybe you can call him whiffs. You can look at it wherever you want. It is wild that he lived that long. Both Tings and Variety with some shots that go astray, go wide, whatever you want to say for it. But man, finally he does die. First blood in a wild manner, but it goes over to Tings. And as you had highlighted earlier, purple buff did get confirmed. Jarcorrr has that around his belt. So a couple things going well for the Kings after what was and still has been a kind of kooky start.
Yeah. What the heck, man? If that purple buff goes down, that lane was just real rough. But of course, NeilMah wasn't able to steal it, and Stuart uses just about everything to try to confirm that kill and can't find it. So I think the hardships of the Camelot Kings duo lane should be dealt with. But if there wasn't a rotation in from Tingz, I'm pretty sure Ducky's getting out there. Just juking the boulder alone may have been enough to confirm that kill. He was almost out, despite the rotation from Tingz, because the ultimate. It's a little off point. Luckily, Ducky didn't have a blue buff, didn't have too much MP5, and couldn't hammer away. All the while, BennyQ did not really match that rotation, didn't feel necessary. Goes into the first time Divine Ruin, though, so wants to try and deal with some of this healing that Quig, that Variety, and even BigManTingz are going to have. Which also means good damage. I mean, Divine Ruin is not a bad starter if you're just trying to find kills as well. So keep your eyes on the Agni burst as it comes through. Maybe keep your eyes on Variety as he is really far up, but is not afraid in the slightest of Oathhh stepping forward here.
That's because he's got Twig in the neighborhood. Oathhh, as you said, is on this right-hand side of the map. It's going to be a blue buff invade, BennyQ. Yeah, was looking to rotate over if need be. Should be able to keep Twig pretty well at bay. Now Variety's locked down. You need your jungler this time around. No boulder. Good jukes. Gets him away from the leap on Oathhh, but that's going to be the blink. All you need is a couple autos. The bomb doesn't connect, and it's just Variety running and running and running around, but finally the Hounds are able to put him down. Twig comes in, tries to help him out. Has to use the jousting fields. Now is just running the old-fashioned way, but with Ducky and BennyQ going back to their lanes, this becomes a good old-fashioned jungler 1v1. Of course, all the mid-camps going over towards Oathhh means it's a small win there, but a big win in the kill department.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Variety. I can see why he had so much confidence. He was extremely tanky, but the minions and the body blocks from that regurgitate pretty much guaranteed that he was going to take 90% of his HP, and even with some nice jukes, did not have the backup from his squad to really retreat. So that's going to be the first kill that the Eldritch Hounds are able to pick up. This one goes over to Ducky. Even so, considering how much pressure that we've seen from Variety so far, don't think this lane is going to be changing up too much. Hercules is going to get the better end of these trades. Ducky's more so looking for rotations, right? That's what you want from your Thor. Those Anvil of Dawns onto the squishier targets, those walls on top of, you know, the plucks and the CC from BennyQ is sort of the initiation for the Eldritch Hounds. So even though you see a bit of a lead, or at least a kill, going the way of Ducky, I think Variety should be pretty even, if not maybe even just a bit behind, considering that XP. He just jumps up to level 8.
And it should be, like you said, honestly not even the end of the world for him, right? Because he's Hercules. At this rate, level 8 is going to be a really good spot to be sitting. He hits it here. And with the double taps not connecting from Ducky, I don't know how much we're going to see over here. Plus, this has been the MO. Every time we've come over to the lane, he's up against Ducky's tower line. Now, a little bit of pressure. These shots connecting from Tingz, but it's not going to be a lot of damage. Jarcorrr, in the meantime, well, it's Jing with ult and with beads. Neither of those needed, just a little simple knock up, knock back, dash forward, and you're out of there. Going to lose the shield buff, a little bit of farm. But Charlie, as far as farm goes, it's 600 separating these two teams right now. Kings in the lead. That's the first blood bounty, and that's about all these teams have really going for them. Nowhere near as many invades, nowhere near as many kills as last game. And a much more patient start for the Kings, considering everything that happened in the first couple minutes.
Still pressure towards the blue buff, though. Remember, that's where this scrap started last time, was CaptainTwig sort of walking up towards blue. Looks like he makes the rotation over, but does not stick around for that blue buff to even spawn in, so Ducky is not going to have any contention on the right side of the map for now. And I think that's where all the fighting really has been, right? Blue buffs. I mean, there was a solo kill attempt there from BigManTingz, but needed the last hit of the ult and the 3, and BennyQ dashing away with the 3 on him to confirm that kill. And I believe gets 2 out of 3. BennyQ just didn't dash, so was not able to find that solo kill. But you push a wave under tower, which, you know, can start to add up if it happens too often. Oathhh even wanted to go for a blue buff invite with the help from NeilMah, but are you really committing that hard? The Sobek's nearby, but Variety's just going to walk forward and say, this one belongs to me. A lot of pressure on the right side of the map. This duo lane really has been left alone. And once again, Jarcorrr opts to spend 300 gold and pick up this chalice. Just says, hey, I have no need for such things. I don't need to be fighting anyway, so I'm just going to get that extra level of HP 5.
Well, it's a small chase maybe big chase on the Neil? I don't even know because it doesn't look like anything big's going to come out of it. Tings is making the rotation over. And Trelly, I'm going to be honest with you. Again, if there's anything you should be, it's honest. The pace of this game, it feels like we're going to be sitting in this kind of state for a little while. I don't see that golden opportunity. I mean, and even if you are looking at it, and now I'm going to be asking, for mid-game, like, who's the engage guy? Who's the one to keep your eyes on to be the pacemaker, the change maker?
So far, it's been a lot of Oathhh and CaptainTwig, as you can expect. Or I guess you can call it the solo laners, really, because they've been the ones who are leading the charge on the invades. But if we want to look towards mid-game, it changes a bit. Ducky and Variety have that teleport fully upgraded. They're ready to make their rotation. So I expect to see both of them involved in some fights. But Variety's looking pretty weak here. Oathh's nearby. One driving strike used at the wrong time, and Oathhh might be able to go in. He might go in anyways on a Twig.
Yeah, jumps in for Twig. Twig uses the jousting fields, gets out of there, thanks to the shield. The auto's good, but not good enough. Variety, I can't believe it. Both of the Kings make it out of there. And wow, oh wow, you gotta still play careful. You can't just lazy back. Ducky looks for the double tap, gonna miss that one now with the wall down, all those on cooldown. It'll be a retreat for the Kings and a nice little reset. Teleport's even up for Variety, so he's not even losing too much over in the right lane. There was a little bit of poke on NeilMah in mid, but again, Trelly, it's just that lack of damage or maybe that lack of punch behind it. Neil never in true danger. The beacon's going to be coming in a minute. Maybe will be a time to pull these teams and more importantly, pull these solo laners over towards mid and see what these teams have to offer.
Yeah, I think that might be the go button. The beacon is not something that teams have been... I guess when the beacon first was introduced, I saw a bit of rotations, a lot of fighting towards it. But since then, I would assume it's something like, hey, can you guys rotate for beacon? The solo laner goes, my wave's spawning. And then that's the end of the conversation, right? They just decide against it. Not something that you want to give up for free, but if you're going to miss a full wave or a blue buff or something like a totem and half your wave, you're going to say, you know what, never mind. If that rotation isn't completely obvious, I'm not going to be going towards it. That said, though, not like BennyQ can't walk forward, not like BigManTingz can't walk forward. Could still be a 3v3 towards this beacon. It's not easy for NeilMah to want to pluck in, though, just because there is usually some good follow-up. There's a lot of peel from Quig and BigManTingz alone. And we've already seen what happens when Jarcorrr gets plucked. He just dashes away, right? He has not a care in the world. 10 seconds, though. Can you stop Ducky's back? Seems like yes. But would he even channel the ult, though? Or is he just going to try and walk through tower? I imagine you don't want to ult just for this.
Well, as of right now, he's not under a whole lot of pressure. Beacon spawned up over on left. Seems like that's going to be under control. In fact, they had 3 people over there, Trelly, and Ducky just gets back to proxying, and you lose the beacon despite the rotation. So you need something massive out of this. You need a kill, you need a Fury, you need something, or you can just go back to base, and that's going to be what Variety opts in for. Instead, you might even lose Jarcorrr, has to knock up, dash away.
Wow, the blink!
Can't get there, Oathhh, with a blink auto, all you need. And I would say catastrophe there for the Kings. It just falls apart.
Puzzling. Very puzzling. Stopping Ducky from proxying when you know that he's unkillable with Anvil of Dawn, questionable. Variety not proxying himself and making the rotation into beacon late, questionable. And then Jarcorrr pushing up, knowing that his team's nowhere near him, not so much questionable, right? You've got your ultimate, but he took way too much damage before going up into that airstrike, which means Oathhh can stop it in its tracks, blink in, and confirm that kill. Beautiful play by the Bakasura, who now is a 2-level lead over CaptainTwig, thanks to just being in the right place at the right time and also not wasting time going for, I'm not going to say pointless, but yeah, you know what, it did net nothing, a pointless game.
Yeah, there was kind of zero net sum.
At best case scenario, you force ult. There's no way that Twig and Quig, the level 11 duo, are going to force Ducky's ult or anything more so. It just seemed like they didn't like the fact that he was proxying, which I understand. You're losing farm. He's so close. Not easy to find a kill, though, even now. Variety wants to try and dive Oathhh. Doesn't seem like a good idea.
Well, much like you, actually, we are seeing Variety go into the tower. Takes a lot of shots in the process. I was thinking, you've got 3 people over here. Variety's simply going to turn around, and you're going to force Ducky to die. Like, that is going to be the goal. Or, like you said, force him into the air. And then that didn't happen. Ducky got to continue proxying. As we saw, Beacon goes the way of the Hounds. And a kill onto Jarcorrr means that you've now got a 2-level lead if you're Stuart. And you haven't even had to do too much to get there. As Oathhh and Ducky, the only 2 kills for the Hounds. 14 minutes in, and it is just those 3 kills on the board. It's only 300 gold separating them. So right now, the experience is the king, and that is in favor of the Hounds. Trelly, these last few games, it has been getting into the late game. It has been these team fights that have mattered the most. And admittedly, you know, we've talked about it. Aphrodite, not necessarily known for her stellar engage. So team fight-wise, the Kings are going to be relying heavily on Twig and Variety to be the go-getters when they start to group up as 5.
I mean, I think Stuart has a lot of job to do here as well. Just because he's been left alone. He's level 16, top farm on the map. Has been very quiet so far this game besides that one ultimate. A Gold Fury pull from the Eldritch Hounds does not seem like too bad of an idea just to try and play around their Fed Hunter. But it looks like it's the Camelot Kings who are stepping forward. BennyQ forced to Aegis by a level 12 CaptainTwig.
Yeah, they're forcing a fight as of right now. Twig, Jousting Fields, has to come out. Again, 4 levels down on BennyQ. Dunk good. And Twig just goes too deep, too far, and too long in the enemy jungle. It's an easy kill for the Hounds as they dunk down on him. Pyromancer now wide open over on the right-hand side. BennyQ, that Aegis being gone might come in handy for the Kings. Pluck is good for Variety. Immediate go forward. Dash is in. And the dash is out. Variety seems to be just fine, taking a lot of damage in the process, but gets to walk away with his life. Pyromancer stalled out with Neil, Benny, and Ducky all backing away. Charlie, it's going to keep the neutral objective from spiraling out of control.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, though. The Eldritch Hounds are happy to get that pick, but during that, what did the Camelot Kings do? They got 2 towers, Gore. They are up in gold as they have been all game.
Movie.
They just didn't have to make any... And there's no way they get Pyromancer for free, too. Okay, Ducky's walking up. He's got the ability to try and go for a steal. But this would be absurd if they get all of this for free. Double tap off the mark. The wall doesn't have much. The Camelot Kings get 2 Tier 1 towers and a Pyromancer after losing the fight. I mean, they just dropped Twig and just pick up so much gold for free. The Eldritch Hounds needed to find a commitment there, whether it to be a tower or an objective would have been better. But I was talking about Stu being so ahead. Jarcorrr gets free farm for a solid 2 minutes and is all the way caught back up.
Man, you got the maps. That I'm gonna say it's maybe a little criminal.
I would say so.
The gold lead in their favor for the Kings. Like you said, map state now in their favor. Tier 1 and left and mid gone. Knock up good from Variety. But I don't think it's going to be too much. Oathhh is in the neighborhood. Maybe they're going to try to turn this around with the Hercules. Relatively tanky now. Wall is good. And he's going to avoid the knock-up. Oathhh, that is. Throwing out the ult. A lot of damage onto Variety. But again, it's Hercules. And even more so, it's 3 items deep Hercules. So that's going to be an easy walk away for Variety. Beacon spawns up. Capped over by the Kings. And Charlie, this has been a wild roller coaster of a game. And in some good ways, some not good ways. And it started with the jungle pull from Jarcorrr and Quig.
Yep.
And it has not ended. It has been a wild ride so far for 18 minutes.
As far as I see, if CaptainTwig is able to get like 2 minutes of free farm, then like that's it. The Camelot Kings are in such a favorable position. It really is just the jungle XP difference at the moment. Itemization also doesn't look too good. CaptainTwig has 2 items to his name. But if he can find time to just AFK farm for like 2 minutes, that'll be it. The Camelot Kings will be winning pretty much throughout the map, despite losing most, if not all, of the engagements I've seen so far. Luckily, Gold Fury has gone untouched. I still think the Eldritch Hounds can go in for a pull. They're not in that bad of a position. But the longer they wait, the more chance you get, number 1, Jarcorrr to keep split pushing because he's got that safety. He can farm for free. And number 2, the chance for CaptainTwig to find some of that free farm and try and catch up. Tower dives the call here. Variety has Driving Strike. Can he get away, though? The wall is perfect, and Oathhh confirms the kill. Finally, Variety gets down.
And exactly what you would need if you're the Hounds in finding a kill necessary on right. However, it is being met with a response from the Kings that has no response from the Hounds, and that is the Gold Fury pulled and destroyed on the left side of the map. Gold-wise, experience-wise, now starting to shimmy A little bit more in favor of the Kings. Experience might be a little shaky just because of the jungle matchup. Kill-wise, it is the Hounds all day, 4-1. Fire Giant was started in a little heat check, damage check, 19 minutes in by the Hounds, but that one's going to get dropped. And Trelly, we find ourselves at an interesting crossroads. Skills, scraps, again, in favor of the Hounds. And Twig is where my eyes fall. 2 levels down, still stacking up that Transcendence. Could be a huge power spike for the Kings, just in general, if he's able to get his way and get things done.
I'm really thinking if Jarcorrr backs and flies into that Fire Giant and just let Twig push his wave for like 2 waves, that would have been it. Like, that would have been the catch-up that is so desperately needed here for the jungle. But even with that, the Camelot Kings are still operating great. Rotating in, remember, Variety did get ganked, but it seems like Quig and Tingz on the way. How much damage do you really have for Thor? With everything missing, not much. But Jarcorrr is here as well. It's 5 Camelot Kings near the Fire Giant. Doesn't seem like a play that needs to happen. The Pyromancer, that could be a good look. But Ducky, look how far up he is now.
Already far up, forced to use the beads already on the disengage. Does not have ult just yet. You need one more auto. Jarcorrr goes in, and Jarcorrr finds the shot. That might be all you need. 1 kill and a wide open playing field on the right side. You had mentioned it. Pyromancer is going to be the easy call for the Kings. Fire Giant still on the table, but you might want a little bit more before you get it. Maybe not. They start to circle over towards the FG pit, and it's just a question of kills or objective. Objective wins out.
Who's got the burst, though? That's the question. Here comes NeilMah. The rest of the Hounds are on the way. It's not going to be easy to try and go for, but Variety's doing a great job of zoning for now. Avoids a lot of CC, but here comes Oathhh.
God, Variety! Yeah, there's only so much you can do. An Oathhh is there, and Oathhh is feasting. Helps BennyQ out here. Fire Giant has to be dropped by the Kings at this point. You lose 2, and it is the right side of the map that goes down. Variety and Twig, 0-5 and 2 collectively. 2 assists. None of those kills going over towards Twig. None assists on Twig. So it has been Variety has been a big helper. It's 20 seconds until they're back. Jarcorrr backs up, comes back in thanks to the passive. NeilMah has to use an Aegis super early on. But he's still alive, so I don't know if I can really dig into it. BennyQ as well has to fall back, keeps both his relics, but that is a successful tier 2 defense coming from the Kings.
Takes a page out of Aurora's book. He's been doing this a lot, picking up an Aegis, just trying to see like what burst can come through. Usually it's something that supports do into executes, but I guess if you can immune a lot of damage like that, or in this case, you pluck someone, you get a relic down, and you're like, hey, I'm out of position because my pluck was just used. I'm going to Aegis damage in return. Seems to be the call. Either way, I loved everything from the Camelot Kings up until that Fire Giant pull. Didn't seem real necessary. And CaptainTwig had his ult up, right? He gets plucked and dies before touching the ground. This is sort of what I'm talking about the Aphrodite. Quig was linked there. He could have ulted, but you don't want ult the pluck right away. You want ult the damage after. But he was plucked so far that the link broke. You no longer have that link. You don't have any sort of protection. Immediately switches to BigManTingz and says, unlucky. Sorry, CaptainTwig. You're level 16 anyway. Who cares? But Twig needs to find farm, and sometime soon.
Well, Neil, that Aegis is going to be down for a little bit. Uses Lurking in the Waters, the dash.
Oh my goodness.
All for the disengage. Twig eats a lot in response. BennyQ.
That's 3 bombs.
Yeah, nothing to scoff at right now. You had actually mentioned the Agni damage a little bit earlier. We haven't gotten to see Benny really hit that punch until now.
I saw some good punches.
That was some good punches. And like you said, that was only 3 of them. That wasn't even the full arsenal. So you're going to have to be careful. Primal Fury's up. Maybe the easy objective to go for right now. Ducky's looking like he wants a tier 1. Twig's over on this side of the map, but Ducky has ult. So it might be a force Ducky play one more time. And the team actually has foregone the Fury. They've started running towards the right side of the map.
Ooh.
Missed push on Ducky, though, makes me think that there's not a whole lot of kill potential on this lane. But we'll see what they have to offer. Great stun from BennyQ. Stops Twig in his tracks. The Kings surging forward is 5 on the right-hand side of the map. Not sure where they want to go other than maybe under the tower with the minion wave. That should get cleared up pretty easily by the mage. Neil, not going to get punished too hard for the missed pluck, but is going to get punished nonetheless. Beats still up for everyone that has them. That's 4 members of the Kings. They're going to fall back, Jelly, and it's a lot of menacing running at the Hounds, but they weren't able to quite get that line they wanted to. Just a few missed abilities. and the Kings lose the advantage they had.
They're not leaving, though. Not yet, anyways. Jarcorrr is flying to the left side of the map, something that the Eldritch Hounds can't know, which means they might still think Fire Giant is a possibility. There is no way that the Camelot Kings go in for it now, though. Eventually, Jarcorrr is going to show himself when he tries to kill that Titan if he does go in, and that means the Eldritch Hounds may be able to go in for a pull on the Fire Giant. But even at this moment, the Camelot Kings, they know Yark's not here, and the Eldritch Hounds have not got that information yet. Now it's revealed. What do? Step forward, go for a pull. Maybe just a Pyromancer, but the ward coverage will show it. The Camelot Kings knows it's happening.
Well, it started, yeah, like you said, fire. Jarcorrr is channeling his back now as we speak, and again, that passive should get him into the fight pretty quickly. Ducky going up into the sky. Twig's half health. Fire Giant's pretty low. You need to get in there and do something if you want it. Hounds secure the FG. Ducky dunks down on 2, and admittedly, that's all you need. The Hounds are out. They've done the CC. They've got the objective, and Shelly, they cut their losses before they can even happen. Keep all 5 strong.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the Camelot Kings thought that the Eldritch Hounds would not make a definitive play when they saw Jarcorrr over on left, but they did. They said, hey, there's a Jing way over there. We have plenty of time. Let's go in for the Fire Giant. 50-50 it, but it's a bit of a weighted coin since there's no ADC nearby, and they get it, and they get out. So, don't think it was the greatest call to send Jark over to deal with the Titan. Ends up that the Eldritch Hounds can make a quick definitive answer, and now they've got Fire Giant on 5. Still have time to deal with the Camelot Kings Titan, which they've done. And now we have to talk about siege potential. Stuart still has the greatest damage to try and go for some of these structures, but if Oathhh is given some space, if it's just Neil's pluck or a wall from Ducky, engage shouldn't be too much of an issue, and this is where Agni can really succeed as well. You try to stand up near a Phoenix, you get hit by a Flame Wave Noxious Fumes combo. You don't even have to worry about the Telegraph Meteor Bomb. Like, you just have the Flame Wave, and that's super easy and almost instant to confirm. 1 stun there, easy double tap, easy wall, easy pluck from Neil. You don't even have to worry about the juke potential. But it seems like Yark and CaptainTwig aren't too concerned about the tier 1 tower. Probably not the tier 2 either. My guess is they try and trade tier 2s, but since Ducky's there, not going to be an easy time for Yark, and it looks like he's heading back to base.
Well, small resets. As Fire Giant has helped out the Hounds in one regard. They were losing pretty heavily in terms of map control. All 3 of their tier 1s are down. All 3 of their tier 2s still stand. And prior to this Fire Giant, they had only managed to knock down the tier 1 in mid on the Hounds, or at least on the King side of the map. Now, all 3 tier 1s are down for the Kings just as well. And Trelly, you'll never guess what, but all 3 tier 2s are still standing. So map state comes back to even. Fire Giant's still on 5, and they got 2 minutes to work with. But this is one of those awkward, when you get a Fire Giant, and I don't know if I want to call it early, maybe early for where these 2 teams are at in the grand scheme, but this feels like one where I can agree with what the Kings are doing, right? You can just step up and try to defend this. Variety, oh my god, Variety eats a whole ton of damage off the back of just 1 stun from Ducky. He was able to find a little more damage onto Twig as well. And that might just give up the GOAT on this tier 2. You just need to get Stu in there. Stu looking for poke. Now the minion wave is going to be here to work with. But this is going to be a good defense from the Kings as long as they can hold. Good wall once again from Ducky. Stuns out Jarcorrr and Quig. But they've got the healing, and apparently, Trelly, they've got the presence necessary to keep this tower standing.
Yeah, this is a bit puzzling. Ducky has just been going for some great walls here. We're just trying to set up the CC. But I see a bit of a misplay. Looks like we won't have too much time to dissect it because now Oathhh is split pushing, trying to force some Camelot Kings back to defend over on left. How much time do you really have left? 50 seconds on this Fire Giant. If you're going in for the tier 2, it's going to have to be now. But look at the low health bars. Ducky goes to the sky.
Dunks down. Does not connect on anybody. But it is going to be enough to open up the tier 2. Trelly, I think that's going to be all she wrote, though. We normally want to talk about Phoenix Sieges. There is no more path forward. Maybe another tier 2 on the list here for the Hounds. They've got the minions. They've got Stu. But they don't have the zoning ult from Ducky to try and create some of that space. With 20 seconds left, it feels like the Hounds are going to have to call this one quits.
Yeah, they stalled this out long enough. So Stuart ends up selling his gooseberries for the tier 2 Deathbringer, which gives you no real meaningful stats. If you notice, Jarcorrr didn't sell anything. He kept his gooseberries until full fail not. And the gooseberries aren't the real issue. The real issue is the crit chance, right? Your ornate arrow stacks off of gold in hand. Stuart, every time those walls came through, remember when Variety almost died, he got to like 30%? he had 1 or 2 stacks on Ornate Arrow. If you have your 20 stacks, that's a lot more crit chance where maybe we're seeing a kill there. It's such a small, different margin where, hey, Stuart's able to get a full Deathbringer online, and that's big. But that crit chance might have been the difference between getting a kill and getting that Phoenix down. Just curious that Stu even thought that the tier 2 crit was worth enough to lose that extra crit chance from the Ornate Arrow. But hey, they got the tier 2, they get the Deathbringer online, and it's going to be Enhanced Fire Giant now. We're going to see those crits coming out a lot more frequently, and they'll be doing a lot more damage. I'm keeping my eye on this Ishtar, especially from a distance. That's the big difference maker, right? 1 wall from Ducky and 2 or 3 crits from Stu is going to make anyone try and back up. I didn't even realize the arsenal that the Camelot Kings were building up, though. 3 runic bombs, 2 for CaptainTwig. This man said, I'm not warding and you can't make me because there's no way I can buy them. Burst is going to come into question here as well. You drop 3 runic bombs, you got a pretty good chance of stealing away an Enhanced Fire Giant.
Yeah, they have taken 4 Pyromancers this game. 3 of them are still in the pocket. Twig plucked. If he goes down, that's 2 of those bombs with him. Has to use the Jousting Fields to disengage from Oathhh. Ducky gonna get dodged out by a great lead twice in a row from Twig to juke out the CC, and they're chasing a kill elsewhere. NeilMah low. It does not seem like the Kings have the ability to close the gap. It's gonna be a retreat from Twig, a retreat from Neil. Both teams with a small reset, but in the Fire Giant pit are the Kings. Quig, Tings soaking it up right now, and with Jarcorrr joining the fray, you might have the advantage that you need. Ducky teleports in, finds Variety, stuns him out. The damage is there, but the healing is a little bit better. Good CC immunity on the other side. Beads, Aegis, used by the carry for Stu. Oh my god, Boulder gets BennyQ out of there. Gives him a small reset. Fire Giant getting low. Neil lurking in the waters. Kings get the Fire Giant. It's enhanced at that. All 5 of them take a play out of the Hounds' book and retreat after getting it. Trelly, despite the kills being in favor of the Hounds, despite that Fire Giant last one being in favor of the Hounds, it's still a 5,000 gold lead and now an EFG on all 5 of the Kings.
And this is, again, a beautiful pluck by Neil to start the fight. I am baffled that CaptainTwig didn't beads, and more so that he didn't punish for not beadsing, right? He got so low, the ultimate from Ducky comes through, but when Lancelot's on the horse, it's very difficult to try and kill him with a Thor, as just shown. Camelot Kings sieging forward. We have 4 members of the Eldritch Hounds channeling backs immediately to go in for the defense here. 1 wall from Ducky to slow down the fight. But all it takes is a wall into a pluck. Variety, remember, he did have his beats down, still does for another minute and a half or so. You don't want to get plucked here, and it looks like an ultimate channeled from Quig just to make sure that he doesn't go down means this Phoenix will be safe for the time being. That combo's lethal, though. Going in for just a free range pluck is not easy. Getting an easy stun from BennyQ or from Ducky confirms it every single time. And Variety is not tanky enough to live a pluck when BennyQ and Stu are nearby.
So far, the Kings have been successful on the map. 2 tier 2s left standing for the Hounds, and that is something that you are probably looking at here if you're the Kings. It's a lot of gold in your pocket, maybe extend this lead. Although, Charlie, we've hit the point in the game where gold, like the conversation to relics is pretty good, you know, power potions, things like that. Like, it still exists, but it's not as huge of a deal when it comes to itemization when you look at all the items and realize that almost everybody's 6 slotted. You have a couple of recipes still up. Both supports still have theirs, as well as Ducky still holding on to his. But other than that, maybe it comes down to the full-on power spikes, what they can do. Tier 2 towers, we were talking about potential defense earlier, probably not existent in the Hounds playbook for now. And so, do you like this split Variety, Twig? They've been kind of bullied pretty hard. I mean, they're 5 of the 6 deaths. Do you like them being alone in mid?
Absolutely. Runic Bomb in play for Variety. It's Enhanced Fire Giant. I like this split as well, though. They have 3 over here. BennyQ drops some bombs on the CaptainTwig. You can't just leave it to a 2v2. Ducky and Oathhh are not going to have a good time over on the right. You want Ducky near Neil. You want Ducky near Stu because those walls are the engage. But
are they going for right?
I mean, Variety can solo it for free if he just walks in with the Runic Bomb. Not like CaptainTwig wants to get close, though. That's a bit scary.
Well, bomb defused thanks to Oathhh. And Variety's not going to get too much damage. So the right side Phoenix still standing. Jarcorrr, meanwhile, with Quig, a little help from Tings, is poking down. A couple more autos is all you need, but left side, again, difficult to really, really commit to. Twig has had to back off, go to the jungle.
I think Variety teleported from right to left.
He definitely did.
They said, where'd he go? He's over here now. And now he's ready to siege.
Well, and he's walking in. Double knockup. That's a good way to start things off. Dash from BennyQ. Gets the disengage. King's unable to do anything with this EFG so far in terms of Phoenix power and prowess. Just one more auto if you can weave it in there. And you're going to have this tower. Jarcorr's looking for it. But you got to be very careful. No beads on the carry. Going to find it. Gets the bird.
Oh my
Now,
goodness, Oathhh!
how do you respond? Ducky with a 3-man dunk in the back. You lose variety, but you've lost Oathhh, as you said, in the meantime. It's 1 for 1. Ducky goes forward, wall off the mark. And that 3-man dunk after Oathh's death might honestly have just stalled what could have been a catastrophe for the Hounds. Instead, you lose left Phoenix. You've lost all your towers. You're going to lose the Primal. But Trelly, you've afforded at least a little bit of breathing room.
I just can't help but think if Variety could have backed to base and then teleported in at full health, he wouldn't have died. It was cool, though. He really did Houdini them. They're like, wait, he was just in right lane. How's this guy over here now? All the while, looks like, oh my goodness, that's one bomb for BennyQ. They're trying to chase here. Does CaptainTwig have the escape? Neil definitely doesn't have the damage to finish, but Ducky doesn't have that ultimate chase down either, so CaptainTwig lives to see another day. Thin margins, though. I mean, if I'm Quig, given how Twig has been playing this game, man, I still hate they're on the same team. I'm keeping attached to CaptainTwig for the rest of the game. This man keeps getting in sticky situations, and that Undying Love may be the only way he gets out of them.
Realistically, and Charlie, maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but it has just been a very weird game from the Kings. Like, from top to bottom, there's just been so many moments where we're just kind of left scratching our heads. And as funny as it is to watch the teleport, I'm still thinking, what did he get? Like, eventually they got that
there
Phoenix.
very fast, man.
But he did, yeah, you know what? He got there a little quicker than he would have if he had just walked over. We'll have to figure it out. Let's back off cooldown, so at this point, maybe fine for the Kings. Waiting on beads for a few, relics. Not quite up for all of them. So a fight maybe not quite in their favor. The zone is way in their favor. Pyromancer just a second ago did go down for the first time this game to the Hounds, and that's going to be in Ducky's pocket. But right now he is just dealing with fire minions teleporting in. Fire Giant's half health. The Kings are going to go ahead and drop that. Neil picks it back up, tries to keep it there. Ducky dunks in. Quig, Variety are the main targets, but Neil is the one who ends up eating a majority of the damage. Watch Twig as he comes in, tries to isolate the support, unable to do so. And it's Oathhh on the side as well. Could potentially trade and change this fight for their team. Small resets, health bars half down for the Hounds, at least for Benny and for Neil. Kings get the Fire Giant. They don't have too much to show for it in terms of kills, but they're looking for a little more. Oh my god! BennyQ knocked up once and taken off the board. And in 37 minutes right now, the Kings are showcasing what a late-game team fight can really look like here too. Deleted, and it's the backline. Phoenix gone. And it looks like this might be all she wrote for the Hounds today. Neil, last line of defense alongside Oathhh and Ducky. They're trying to do what they can, but the damage, it is just too much. Charlie, it takes him a long time. There's some head-scratching plays in the process. But the Kings take this one 3-0.
The Kings get it done. Man, there's a couple things I want to rewatch in that game. Number one is the buff pull. I'm desperate. I hope that Bobby was watching because I'm looking at him smiling. I need to know what went wrong there, and then I need to watch Variety's teleport play, both of which, hey, it ended up working out. I mean, obviously,
a dub's a dub, man.
You get nothing beneficial by losing your chest camp and your green buff early, but the teleport, we can't judge the usefulness of that teleport. And of course, the Camelot Kings play a very dominant game. I think that composition from the Hounds was very difficult to deal with. The walls from Ducky, very consistent. Stu was always on point. BennyQ had a lot of poke. But the heals from Quig were pretty good as well. That sustain helped them be able to stick in these fights a little bit later on until the all-in button where the Camelot Kings just said, hey, we're going in. We're W key.
Yeah, there was a certain point where, and it was enhanced Fire Giant, right?
Yep.
That was the real turnaround for him because after losing the Fire Giant prior, it felt like we were finally seeing the Hounds in control again, maybe at least in terms of some of the map. They didn't get quite as much as they would have wanted. And unfortunately for them, they didn't get anything after that, right? Enhanced Fire Giants kills, all going over towards the Kings. And again, they end this one 3-0. That's going to do it for myself and Trelly. We'll throw it over to the desk, and they can break it down.
That's right, a big 3-0 for the Camelot Kings to kind of lift the spirits back for the team after a rough last couple of sets out here. I believe now does tie up their standings. And we can kind of look throughout the course of this game. I mean, this was a fairly even game all the way through until we start getting to these Fire Giant dances, a 28-minute beyond there. Still a relatively close game for this point. BennyQ's hitting big numbers on this Agni. Love what we've seen coming from him. I believe 2-0 and 3 until that very last team fight to kind of end out. Variety, honestly, that game probably could have gone on for another few minutes if Variety didn't make two of the best pulls of his life in that game, and simultaneously on two different people.
Yeah, highlight Variety to end that game. But overall, again, the Hounds, they have these kill leads. They're getting kills, but there's just nothing beyond these kills that they're getting. Their kills are not resulting in leads. They're not getting stuff after the stuff. And right here, I mean, the kill was going to happen anyway, but it looked a little sloppy at that point. But overall, agreed, 100%. Great day by the Kings, especially after last week. They had a little bit of a sloppier week, I think, and a harder week last week. But this week, nice little start to it. Really good set into the Hounds. And the Hounds kind of have to go, you know, reset a little bit. They have to think back now, what do we need to improve on? What is something that we liked from this set? There are things to build on, but there are also some things that need to switch up.
Well, let's see adjustments from the Eldritch Hounds in the sets moving forward. I think the Camelot Kings definitely need a pick like this. That one by Variety to the one even right before that one where he grabs BennyQ. Benny beats a little bit too late, caught inside the air. By the time he hits the ground where he could have dashed away, he was already dead. Finds another one there right on top of Stu, who used both relics before. Great plays by Variety. Love seeing him back kind of in classic fashion of Variety, kind of the old side of Variety that we used to see, even kind of back towards last season where he was really starting to get these big plays, these big pickups, and really kind of being that front line that he needs for a team. So I love seeing the changes that we've seen from the Camelot Kings just in this set alone so far.
Yeah, and this is what we needed to see from them. We're at the halfway mark. This is the middle part of the second phase. You've got another half of this regular season. So there's a lot of stuff to learn from. There's still a lot of stuff to build on, but this is a good start for the Kings.
Yeah, great start for the Camelot Kings, and one player who had a really great performance in this set here, specifically Quig, the support for the player. Love what we were seeing from him on the Aphrodite, and especially the Athena in the first couple of games. He's standing by for our post-game interview with Gormizer.
That's right, I've got Quig here, and I'm going to start with something that we were scratching our heads at just because we caught it a little late there. The very beginning of Game 3, the buffs go wrong, man. What went wrong there?
This Yark guy, dude, he went the arrow, he ones the buffs, none of the sides die. Like, what can you do? You almost strolled the whole game. I don't know.
Yeah, I was talking to Charlie because I was already on the, okay, this is Jing Aphrodite. This is going to be a very slow lane for the Kings. That start did not help. But you guys kind of pull that through, and all of these games go a little longer. But that last game as well, like, what is it, I guess, that really helped turn it around in your favor? Because it feels like the gold was constantly on your side, but the kills just never really came.
We were just such a hard draft to pick. Like, who do you pick on our team? We have a Jingwei running around. This dude's on a horse. You can't stun him off. Like, the only thing you do is stun him off it. Like, Harry lived so many ganks over there. They tried to kill the guy so many times. He lived. Like, I don't know. We were just tricky to kill guys that game.
And, hey, you survive long enough to turn things around when it gets to the late game. I do want to ask grand scheme, though, because, you know, last couple of weeks, you guys have had, 2 losses last week, both 0-3, and then an 0-3 loss yesterday. So getting this win under the belt, I know, like, mental turnaround, things like that, but looking forward to the rest of the phase, like, how important do you think was this win for getting everybody kind of, like, back on their horse?
I mean, yeah, obviously it feels good to win. It would have sucked to lose 4 sets in a row, and it would have sucked. I would have hated losing to Pat. That Oathhh guy, he would have held that over me for the rest of my life if I lost there. So I'm happy we won, and, you know, maybe we can turn it around, finish off the rest of the split strong.
I'm excited to see it. I'm sure all the Kings fans out there are as well. So congratulations again on your win, man. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for your time. And we'll throw it over the desk.
That was good. Fun to be had.
That was good.
Over with the interview. Again, congratulations to the Camelot Kings getting a much-needed win for themselves. And even as you heard Quig there, it never feels good going down 4 in a row in that one. So a big one to kind of reset the momentum, reset the mentals for the team, especially moving in towards the back half now of the phase.
Yeah, and to highlight, this is now the first part of the phase for most teams is now done. They've already done their 5 sets. Now you have the back half, which is the important half. This is the half that leads into Worlds, so this is the half that is the most important. First half you can use for learning, you can practice, try stuff. Now you have to start getting the meta down pat, what you want to do, how you want to draft, when you want to draft, stuff to prioritize, stuff like that. This is the important part, and now it's time to kind of bunker down, get ready for this important part.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already looking down the line for the future because obviously Camelot Kings already played there 2 this weekend. Won't see them again now, but I'm looking at their future matchups itself. The Gladiators they got to play. They got the Jade Dragons they got to go towards. And then to kind of round out the remainder of their phase, they've also got Oni Warriors and Styx Ferrymen still to play up against as well. So will be a tough back half of the phase for this team. We can take a look at the schedule for today because now everything is done. So I guess more so the schedule of what you missed today. 3-1 for the Styx Ferrymen over the Gilded Gladiators and a 3-0 for the Camelot Kings, taking down the Eldritch Hounds. And now we can look ahead towards tomorrow. Jade Dragons and Atlantis Leviathan start out our day, and then Oni Warriors and Highland Ravens will cap off week number 4. We get our first look at the Dragons now with Vaporish Coast moving to that roster, replacing Vote for the Dragons. If you haven't been on the know-how or haven't seen social media by this point, or wondering, hey, well, normally Coast is over on these guys' team. He's normally with the Hounds. What happened to him? We'll get to see him tomorrow with the Jade Dragons going up against a very difficult opponent and a very strong Atlantis Leviathans just coming off of their hot win over the Ferrymen earlier this week in a 5-game set, winning out 3-2. And as I said again, Oni Warriors and the Highland Ravens to kind of cap things off and give us a real good showing there. Really also see how much the Highland Ravens have had for their improvement up against their opponents in the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, 2 really good sets to end off this week. Very important games for the Dragons, important for the Ravens. I think they both have to show a lot against these tougher opponents. And the tougher opponents, when you're not playing those other top 3 teams, you need to put away the other opponents and you need to show them that you are kind of the top dog to keep that top spot.
Well, 2 days down and only 1 more to go here in week number 4 of the SPL. Thank you so much for watching today. I've been J-Mac. Joining me here has been Inbound on the Desk on behalf of us, all the casters. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes. Thank you for watching. Make sure you stick around for the SEC. Otherwise, we'll see you for the SPL tomorrow at 11 a.m.